Hello, hello, hello. Happy, is today Tuesday? Yeah. Sorry, you guys. Happy Tuesday. Hope everybody's doing good. Let me say hi to some people. Let's see who we got up in here. Hi, Crochet. Oh, oh my God, I can't even talk. Let me start again. Hi, Crime Crochet and Coffee. Hi, Shelly Beans. Hey, Preschool Granny. Grace on Wheels. Nicole B. Adrian. Music City Mom. Give me a snack. Mayla's Mom. Coladia. Lindsay Lee. Kathy. Hello. Sarah. Bellum. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, K-Brace. Good to see you. Hi, Nature Rocks. Hi, Grace on Wheels. Hey, Megan. All right, well, if anybody sees, hey, Million Sparkles, hey, Boo Sheet, good to see everybody. Thank you guys for being here. Let's hear a word from our sponsor. Hopefully by the time I'm done with this, Allie will be here because I got deets backstage. So here we go.
And Kai, when you're on Jen Lou's channel, what do you do with the like button?
Smash, smash, smash. Yeah.
Yeah, so be like Kai. Yeah. Smash that like button. Okay. So before I bring deets up really quickly, I just want to say thank you guys, everyone, for being here. I greatly appreciate it. We will be talking about Karen Reed. We will be talking about the Alberts. Okay, all I did today was binge their testimony. So we're going to go in the order that they testified. We're going to start with Christopher and get to probably the very beginning of where Brian Albert testifies. And that's going to be part one. And then part two will be the rest of Brian, and then Brian Jr. and Caitlin. Okay, so that is how we are going to do it. And let me bring up Deets. You guys welcome my friend Deets to the stage. Hello, Deets. How are you?
Hello, hello. I love your intro. That was awesome. Did you put
Thank
that all
you.
together? And smash the like with Kai. It's great. I'm over
Thank
here
you.
cracking up by myself. Loved it.
I did the intro, but I cannot take credit for Kai. My friend Coolest Reviews did that. It's his voice, and he made that video for me.
Mm.
Kai is my favorite. I mean, I know I know he did a
He's a
bad
bad
thing.
dude, yeah.
He's a bad dude and he did bad things, but dang it, I like him. And he was good in that moment. It was after
Yeah.
all of that,
At that moment, he was good. I agree with you there.
but
Yeah.
now he's like, I have all of his records, his court stuff. I need to get on the ball and put together a documentary about him and that case, because that case is very layered. And I know that Netflix, when they did their thing on him, mainly they were just talking about how he got where he got. It wasn't really about the case, but I feel like his victim does need it needs to be spoken about, and people need to know what happened.
See, and I only know about it from Netflix. I didn't know about the whole YouTube, social media sensation beforehand and all that stuff. So I would love to
Yeah.
watch a documentary on it with the
Yeah.
facts.
I
Because
need
I
to.
know that, Netflix and Hulu and all them, sometimes those documentaries, I love them because I am a documentary
Me
nut.
too.
But
Me
sometimes
too.
they are not, 100% factual, unfortunately.
Yeah, and they kind of, I mean, they're not like and I think this is like another thing we should, like, side project we should talk about, because I think that, you know, I think one of the issues that, like, mainstream media has with social media, true crime content creators, is the fact that we have liberties that they don't have. I
Yeah,
don't have to make a
I agree.
documentary and squeeze it into 45 minutes because 15 minutes of it's going to be commercials. Like, I don't have to do
True.
that. And I can put in stuff that probably they can't,
Ain't
and
allowed
so,
to. Yeah.
yeah. So I feel like maybe that's why they kind of, sometimes snub their noses at us, but I don't snub my nose at mainstream media. So I really don't appreciate them. Although I have to say, I mean, I do understand why they look down their noses at some of us. Some of us just do not act
Yeah.
right and are not representative of the true crime community as a whole.
I'm always like, "Those are not my people. Don't judge us."
Correct.
It's the same with law enforcement, like, so many
Yes.
people judge law enforcement as a whole, as a
Yeah.
collective, when there are bad apples in it, but you have that with every profession, you have that with every group, you have it with everything. That doesn't mean that law enforcement as a whole are bad people. I know lots of great law enforcement officers, but,
Same.
what you hear about, though, is the bad actors,
Yes.
so that's what
I
turns people
know.
off to them in general.
It's unfortunate because I think that all professions, look, anytime you deal with people, people will people. Some of us people,
Mhm.
and when we people, we do great. Some of us, when we people, we do not.
We do not so great. Yeah.
you
Did you
know?
hear, bringing us back to the trial, I did hear a rumor yesterday that Netflix is in the courtroom. There is a Netflix rep, so which I kind of
I
figured there would be something
Yeah,
good done on this anyway,
I had
kinda
heard
like
that.
making a murderer or something.
Yeah, and I had heard that as well, and I was also now I'd heard all of the buzz around the streets about Turtle Boy, uh,
Mm,
and that, he was in the courtroom, but then all of the sudden, in the middle of the day,
in the middle of the testimony.
it was like, no. And so I listened to that because the way that Allie and I intended to do this was we were not gonna listen to anything other than the testimony.
Mhm.
We were gonna try to stay away from, like, any of the, in camera hearings that they have, stuff like that, and, kind of stay away from watching it on YouTube other than to watch, it on, like, Law and Crime, and even then I turned the chat off,
Mhm.
um, so that we could give a very objective opinion. But I mean, I knew that people were going to watch that part of it, and I knew people would want to talk about it. And I felt like, okay, I need to at least, see what's going on so I can at least speak. somewhat intelligently on the subject.
Right.
So I watched it and I was a little bit like, I actually thought Turtle Boy's lawyer made some really salient and really good arguments. First of all, he was upset about the timing of it. It was very abrupt.
Yeah.
And the Associated Press was served, but he wasn't, which I understand why he would feel some type of way about that.
Wouldn't we all?
Yes. And
Regardless of
then
whether you like Turtle Boy or not. Hearing that, I was
exactly.
like, dang, I'd be ticked too.
Exactly. And then, so the way that it ended up, you guys, if anybody is unaware, what the judge said was, listen, during certain people's testimony, Turtle Boy will not be allowed in the courtroom, but they're not going to give his seat away. So he'll have, if he's there on time, promptly, and it happens to be one of the named people, which most of those people have testified already, on the list, he'll just have to be excused. And then when it's all said and done, he can come back. So I
think the big one for him though was probably Jen McCabe being kicked out
yes,
for that is probably pretty frustrating for him.
yes,
But I did think his lawyer, and I haven't watched his lawyer before, but I watched him during that proceeding, and I thought he did pretty good for being, notified like what, 30 minutes prior.
yes. And by the way, he was at the courthouse for another matter entirely.
And Judge Bev was the judge on it. I thought that was hilarious.
Yes, Judge Bev.
Ironic.
So, let me message Allie and see where she's at.
I wonder if she's got the time wrong.
I don't know. Let me see.
I've done that before.
Okay, so
one of the harlot, I think, in my opinion, definitely with one of them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is my other argument though. I didn't keep up with that part of it. Like I didn't watch his coverage, so I don't know anything about it. But objectively speaking, this is what I will say. At this point, it's an accusation. He's been charged, he hasn't been convicted. And so I feel like that should be taken into consideration. But I also think that the judge is interested in having, Karen read, her due process and the right to a fair trial. And she doesn't want anybody on the witness stand who might be nervous because he's sitting in the audience. And what could she do? So I think she
did a fair job of handling it.
I think she did what she needed to do. And I think, in the end, it'll be fine. But I see, I go back and forth a lot with Judge Bev because, to be quite honest with you, Judge Bev does some things that I just quite frankly don't understand. Like, I don't know, interrupting cross-examination saying things like, let's wrap it up. I'm used to Judge Boyce, who runs a very, very orderly courtroom, and he will say he'll wait for the appropriate break, and then he will say, okay, can I have a sidebar? And then they will have a sidebar, and that's where they will discuss scheduling. But he never just interrupts or anything like that. She's very abrupt. And
she's very involved for a judge. From all the other judges I've watched, I mean, I know they're involved too, but just the way, like you said, she interrupts, interjects, and offers up, words throughout, move it along. I don't know. She just seems a lot more involved to a certain extent. And then what do you think about her saying that they can't state the grounds of their objection? I thought that was weird.
I find that to be interesting and also probably potentially problematic. Okay, because let's move forward. Okay, let's just say, for the sake of this discussion, that Karen is convicted. She's definitely going to appeal. The first thing that they do is they go through the transcript of the trial looking for errors in the trial. And they will, so if Judge Bev is, if the prosecution is raising an objection, but they don't state the grounds for their objection, and Judge Bev is sustaining the prosecution's objection, but we don't know what the grounds are, then how do we know whether a trial error has occurred? See, because when the judge speaks to the jury, they will tell the jury when a objection is sustained, you're usually supposed to disregard the question. But so all these times that she's sustaining questions, we don't know what the grounds are that they are objecting. All they're saying is objection, and here comes Judge Bev, sustained, overruled, and then she speaks to witnesses. She will ask the question. I've never seen. Do you know?
Yes, that's what I was talking about. Like, it feels like she's ejecting herself by stating, well, did you know the answer to that? Well, what do you think was, like, I'm just blown away. And then the objections, instead of saying, whatever they say when it's opposite of sustained, she's like, or instead of saying overruled, I couldn't think. I was having a brain fart. She'll be like, I'll allow it. I'll let you have that one. Like,
yes. Yes. Let me just say this. Some of the things that Judge Bev does kind of reminds me of if I were to be a judge and I had no actual, which I don't. I'm not an attorney. I've said it 11 billion times. I've only got a good enough diploma. I got some street smarts, and I've watched a lot of trials, and I've done a lot of research. So that's where like some of my knowledge comes from. And
oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yes,
Jen.
babe. You're fine.
I'm so sorry. I was thinking 9. I remember you told me we better do 8 because it's a lot, and I forgot all about it. I think I might have even, did I tell you 9 deeds? But
I don't think you told me a
just
time. I went back and checked my email.
Okay. Thank God, because I was just sitting here like, fiddling around, and then I seen your text, Jen, and I didn't even write back. I was just like, oh my God, I gotta go.
We held it down. We held it down.
Oh, thank goodness.
Allie, we held it down. Did you get to eat?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I did.
Okay, I was worried about you.
Really good, but yes. I'm so sorry, Jen. I'm such a shit friend right now.
We were just chit-chatting about the judge and pre-trial,
just
outwardly other trial things, not the testimony.
Yeah, no, we haven't talked anything about the testimony. We've been talking about Judge Bev and how she will all of a sudden, out of nowhere, particularly when it's the defense be like, okay, let's wrap it up.
The defense is not the one that she needs to be telling to wrap it up, but I have noticed her telling Molly more and more to move it along or not do this or that. So I was like, oh, good.
Yes. Yeah.
I've never seen a judge do that. Like, usually they try to give them be patient with them because they know, like, they don't want anybody to be able to appeal based on whatever. So give them their time. It's unbelievable. She's something else.
I agree. Which I guess you guys probably don't know if you didn't do all the pre-trial thingies that she was asked to recuse herself and did not.
She said nope.
She's like, no, I'm in here.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Now that I did know.
Why? What was their reason?
A connection, like one, a bias, and then 2, there was a perceived connection. I don't know if that connection was true or not. Like, Benny and I were talking a little bit earlier about some of the Turtle Boy stuff, and I don't know all the Turtle Boy things, but the connection between Bev and the Alberts was something that he had addressed and talked about, and I really didn't dig into all of it. I just know the motion got denied. Just like all the other ones.
Yeah, Bev does not. Wow. I mean, she does play, but then she doesn't play. Like today, she got onto Karen's attorney for saying, of course. Yeah. And she said, stop saying, of course. And then he says, of course.
He said, of course.
And then she laughed.
So yeah, that was weird. I was like, could you get on to Lolly about if or what, if anything? Could you do that one?
Listen, Okay, I know Elaine from the Depp Heard trials. She was Amber Heard's attorney. Now I know that her favorite question to ask as to avoid leading on direct was, what if anything? And there were many times that she would be objected asking the question that way, and her argument always was, I said, what if anything? Like, Elaine, we heard you. The judge heard you. The attorneys heard you. I'm very uncomfortable not knowing. Okay. Remember Darrell Brooks?
Yes.
Okay, so remember when he got put in the other courtroom because he was acting a fool?
Yes.
And he would hold up that
The
sign,
signs. Yeah.
grounds.
Mhm.
Every time there's an objection and there's no grounds for that, all I can see is
You're just
Darrell
thinking.
with his little box fort talking about grounds. I need to understand. What are you objecting to? What is the problem?
Oh my gosh, that's a funny mental image, though.
It's too much for me. I can't do it. I need more of I'm so used to some of these judges who run like a very tight ship, like Judge Boyce. Judge Boyce is not playing with any of these people. He doesn't play with the bailiff. He doesn't play with the witness, the court clerk, none of the people in court at all at any time. There's no joking around. There's none of this stuff. And Judge Boyce throws shade because when any of the attorneys say, can I do such and such, the judge will respond with, you may, because the proper way to phrase that is may I,
May.
because,
That
but
is
he's a
pet-
stickler.
That's a pet peeve of mine. I had in junior high, there was this boy. I would say that, like, oh, can I do this? Can I do that? And this boy would just be like, I don't know, can you? I don't know, can you? And it's just like grilled into my head now. So now I always say may
Yeah,
because of the way that cocky little turd was. But
exactly. See,
things like that get grilled into you.
they do, and then they stick with you. But I like that Judge Boyce does a little bit of shade. Okay, so should we get started?
Yes. On
All
to
right.
Chris Albert.
Wait,
All right. Yes.
I lost signal for a second because I had to come over next door to do this live because the kids are going to sleep and it's like raining really hard and I can't be inside because they won't be able to go to sleep. But anyways,
And
when I came in, yes.
Okay.
But when I came in, I lost signal and I wanted to ask you, imagine if Bev, well, I don't like the Aunt Bev thing because I have an Aunt Bev who I love dearly, but imagine if Bev had to deal with Pryor as her, like, I can just imagine if he was the one defending Karen Reed. Oh my God almighty. Because he goes down, he goes on forever. So.
And everything, all roads lead to Melanie Gibb.
Yeah.
Every road. All the time, regardless. Even the roads that Melanie Gibbs roads lead to Melanie Gibb. Always. Yes. He has a bee in his bonnet for that woman. And I'll unless something happens to Chad, i.e. death, or he signs some kind of release, that's the only thing that gets you out of attorney-client privilege. But I need to know. I just want to sit down with Pryor and I just want to ask him. I don't want to hear about anything else. I just need to know, Mr. Pryor, what is your beef with Melanie G? Now, I think I have a beef with her, so I'm not judging for the beef. I don't care for her. No me gusta. But I need to know exactly because you are very upset with her, way worse than I even am. And I need to know where it comes from.
Yeah, I need to know if we're on the same team.
Yes. And also, let's work together. How can we get the Melanies? And I need to know also, Mr. Pryor, why you have much bigger beef with Mel G and less of a beef with Mel P. She's no good either. Both those Melanies are bad. Okay. All right. So Christopher Albert is the first person from the Albert family to take the stand. Okay. Christopher Albert is married to Julie Albert, and they are neighbors, they were until they moved, to John O'Keefe, and then later on when Karen Reed. Okay. And they all decide They all end up at the Waterfall
Mhm.
bar that night on the 28th. And from there, uh, Chris was not sure what time he left. He wasn't dressed. This is what I didn't understand. So he's testifying on direct, and he's testifying about getting to the bar, and he's basically wearing like a hoodie and jeans and tennis shoes. Okay. But
Mhm.
they know this storm is coming. And in order for the snow to even come, it's got to be freezing. So at least 32, right? But it's going to be bad. And then he does it. He walks from his pizza shop to the bar, which wasn't very far, as like across the street and down a ways, just like a 4 minute walk. But he wasn't, but then he decides to walk home because his wife, Julie, who was there, she got there before she and her sister-in-law, Nicole, who's married to Brian Albert, who is Christopher Albert's older brother. Nicole and Julie got there much earlier than the rest of the party. Everybody else didn't get there till, somewhere in between 10 and 11. That's when everybody who was going to show up and hang out at the bar together, finally everybody was there in total. But Julie left because she had a migraine. And she only saw Karen and John O'Keefe for like 10 or 15 minutes. Okay. So, but she left, and I'm just shocked that he walked home in that attire. I don't know,
And that's why that was one of the main questions that, he was asking, how quick he asked it later to, I don't remember if Yannetti, I think, was asking Julie later in her testimony, like, how fast do you walk in the snow? And she was like, really fast, because it's cold. So that was kind of funny because Chris Albert says that it took him about 10 minutes to get home. And you would think if you're walking fast because you're not, appropriately dressed for the weather, it would have taken him a little bit longer or quicker to get home because he would have walked faster, but it didn't. I don't know if that's important to the timeline or not, but it was just one of the things that I noted. So
Yeah.
so like you had said, Julie had dropped off clothes with him to change into after work, and he testified that he left D&E Pizza, his pizza shop, at like 10 till closing time. So it closes at 10, and he left about 10 minutes prior to that. And the walk from his pizza shop to the waterfall, it's literally like a minute, if that. They're right across the street from each other. So he would have gotten there probably right before 10.
Yeah. So that was okay. So, I mean, it's basically just, one thing that I did find to be a little bit funny, and I mean, maybe I shouldn't say this, but when Karen Reed showed up to the bar, she had her own glass, and it was already filled. And it's not a big deal. It doesn't mean anything. It's just I thought it was kind of funny that she arrived at a bar with a glass in her hand and nobody did anything.
From
Your
another
friends
bar,
aren't gonna, your friends aren't gonna rat you out, but usually the bar staff is watching, and that would never fly. So I just thought it was like, oh, okay. I just thought it was a little funny, quick kind of thing. So anyway, basically the direct examination was kind of ho-hum. I'm going to be honest. I have zero idea of what kind of testimony Lolly was actually trying to elicit from Chris Albert. I didn't understand the point. I really didn't.
So it kind of goes to what we've seen Lolly do on a lot of other directs so far. Is he starts out, and the first half an hour you can pretty much skip because it's the same stuff. And so that becomes exhausting, and I think it becomes exhausting. It has to be exhausting to the jury as well. But they got
Yeah.
into the fact that on direct that he considered John a friend, and they had a good relationship. They talk about going to how he got from the pizza shop to the waterfall. They talk about John stopping in and saying, "Hey," in the morning. with his nephew, and that's when Chris told him he was going to be at the waterfall later. When he got to the waterfall, he ordered a beer and some food, which becomes funny later on cross.
Yes.
um, Testified that he met Higgins through his brothers. And let's see here. Brian was there. He didn't know Kevin was there.
They didn't argue. There was no fighting between Karen and anybody, really. There was no, Karen and John were not fighting. Nobody was fighting. Everybody was having a great time.
A good time. And I think that the importance of Chris Albert's testimony for, I don't know if it's the important for the Commonwealth, but it is for the defense, but that he said when he got home, he went straight to bed, and that Colin opened their door and told him good night and loved that, to let them know that he was home, and the time frame of that. I think that became important for Colin's testimony. And then he didn't wake up the next morning until like 8 or 8:30. And then Julie came back home. She had already been out to the Albert's house to 34 Fairview. She came back home and told him that John had died, and that's how he had found out. And then they went back over there together between 9 and 9:30.
Right. Now, I will say this. One thing that I learned in the trial that I didn't know, that has absolutely no relevance on anything one way or another as far as the crime is concerned, I didn't realize that Brian and why do I can't ever remember her? Is it Nicole?
Nicole.
Yeah. Nicole Albert live in Brian Albert's parents' home. That's like the family home. That is where the Albert kids grew up. And so when it comes out later and they're selling their home, they're selling this home. I'm not going to lie. It did make me feel some type of way.
Leaves a taste in your mouth, doesn't it?
Yeah. It just, to me, it seems like, and the fact that they had been talking about it allegedly way before this, that, they were, most of their kids were, moved out. They were going to be essentially empty nesters. It was too much of a home for them, but it was your parents' home. And I don't have 7 or 6 siblings, right? There's not 7 children in my family. It's just me and my sister. But if I had gotten my parents' home and I was considering downsizing, I would consult my sister first. And it just doesn't seem, at least in the testimony that I've heard up until this point.
I'm pretty sure his parents are still alive.
Yes, they live across the street from the Canton Police Department.
That's what I thought. Okay, yeah. So
see, I remember these things.
That's a tiny little detail there. It is weird that one of the other siblings didn't want the house, but maybe that's how it started out. Mom and Dad wanted to downsize or something themselves, and Brian had a big family at the time and was like, yeah, let me buy this place. And then, but it's weird because just 10 short years later, he's ready to move.
Yeah. That is, it leaves a taste in my mouth too. I find that to be interesting. So I didn't get to see the cross of Chris.
We're fixing to play it, babe. Don't you worry.
Okay, perfect. Because with Brian now, I caught the entire day. And then some of the second day with the recross, I caught a little bit of that, but not all of it. But with Chris, I hadn't caught any of it until Bendy told me that's what we were going to talk about first. So I was trying to watch a little bit ago. I was listening. But Lally, I'm telling you, he is so hard to follow. I cannot imagine how the jury must feel, because we can rewind, and I've had to rewind several times. They cannot. And I'm telling you, they have to be lost.
I was saying last night on my live that I was reading the transcript trying to find a particular spot, and it's so much easier to read the transcript than listen to Lolly. Like, it's so, something is so hard about that. I agree. I feel for him. I'm glad they get to take notes.
He makes you fall asleep and everything.
He does, but I think it's because he's very low key in his approach, but the defense is not. They're like the antithesis.
No, they're intense.
And so because they're so intense, it actually makes Lolly seem like he's lollygagging and kind of, it just intensifies that. It highlights it more. And Yeah, yes, Mayla's mom, the jury is allowed to take notes. But Humanimal, here's my thing with that. They didn't move because something happened. The story is that they were wanting to sell that house way before, and we're talking about it before anything happened at their house, that they were wanting to downsize. And that's where, if they would have just said, listen, would you want to stay in a home where somebody had died on your front lawn and now it's, this big ass huge trial and people are driving by Coffendorfer, and taking pictures Coffendorfer, I would understand. That is a reasonable explanation, it's actually a kind of a better one than what they're trying to say. The one they're trying to say just kind of rings a little false.
It feels weird, like, oh, my
Yes.
brother sold his home and got a great deal, so I decided I'm gonna sell my home and get a great deal too. And then you come to find out you sold it 50,000 below asking. So what?
Right.
Yeah.
Like you were trying to get it quick, so
It does
like
feel.
it's weird. It does a little.
It feels that way, but who knows?
Dr. B, that's if you believe anything that comes out of their mouths. The amount of deception with these witnesses is mind-boggling. Listen, I'm going to say it like this. Now, all I did all day long today was listen to the Albert's testimony. Okay. I'm tired of them. I don't understand them. Okay. First I had to understand that I think it's a Massachusetts thing for them to be abrupt the way they are. I don't actually think that the Alberts, I think this is just the town because they seem so angry and hostile. And they're, I do have a friend from Massachusetts, Carrie, and she says masshole. And so I'm thinking that's what it is because at first I was like, hey, like simmer down, Battle Cat. They're just asking what your name is. And, they get like a toot about it. And I'm like, okay, but wait, Jen, remember what Carrie told you. And so now, so I took that into consideration. But their lapses in memory are troubling for me.
I don't recall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like but you, if you're paying attention, those I don't recalls and I don't remembers are only heavily prevalent when the defense is asking a question.
Yes.
Well, also, I know we're not on to Brian yet, but that phone situation, like talking about deception, and you're telling me that you were notified the day after you changed out your phone, you were told not to preserve any evidence on this phone, but you had just happened to just trade it in the very day before that. I'm sorry, but come on, dude. Really? The day before that? Okay.
Brian's got a lot of issues with his phone and his butt as well.
Yes.
And so do a few others. So there seems to be, I think that this case, it reminds me of the Murdoch case in that instance, where it's going to come down to a lot of the experts in the phone data and things like that.
Yep. Teacup Kraken says, did I hear someone say masshole? 'Tis a term I know. All right. So I thought we would listen to a little bit of the cross-examination because, to be honest with you, that was the most exciting testimony. And most of the cross-examination in particularly with Chris, Julie, and Nicole are their connections to other people. And I just find it to be quite compelling. And so we're going to listen to it. What say you good ladies? Shall we?
We shall.
All right.
Yes, I look forward to it.
Yes. I'm going to let it play for a little bit because I don't know what Nestor's deal is, but he's got to go out. So I got to let him out because he'll only go with me. So I'll be in the chat hearing, but I'm just going to let it play for a little bit. So just give me a minute. Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
Oh, wait, too much.
Sir, I'm going to display a photograph with the court's permission on the screen, and I'd ask you to take a look at it, and if you and let the jury
Do you have a
know.
hard copy of it?
Yes, we do have a hard copy.
So why don't you show it to the witness and
Happy
put
to
it in
do that.
evidence?
Thank you, Ron.
Okay, I lied. 2 seconds into the cross-examination is an example of Judge Bev. Judge, is this an actual trial or a mock trial? Because I don't understand why you're giving the directions. It's almost like she's teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what you should be doing.
Why
He
a hard
started
copy?
that whole kerfuffle with the numbering of the exhibits. It created mass chaos for days in the courtroom, and I'm like, why did she do that to them? Like,
Yeah.
I understand it was going to be easier in the end, but oof,
Yes.
what a nightmare.
Judge Bev, what are you doing? Girl.
Also, why did she want a hard copy and not to be shown to everybody? I'm curious. Maybe because the streaming, or I don't know.
Okay, so typically, so like when we've been watching the Daybell trial, Allie, when the prosecution wants to put on a piece of evidence, when they want to publish a photo to the court, what they'll say is, I'm going to hand the witness states blah exhibit blah blah blah, and then they'll say, and I've provided a copy to counsel and a courtesy copy to the court. That's typically how it's done. So, and then they will show the witness. They will ask the witness, do you recognize this photograph? The witness will usually say, well, yeah. And then they will admit it, ask for it to be admitted into evidence. And then the judge will say, well, does the other side have any objections? And if there's no objections, then the judge will say, okay, it's admitted into evidence. And then the lawyer will say, request to publish. And then the judge will give permission.
Right,
So
you're right,
usually that's the way it's done. But but it's Judge Bev's abruptness.
Well,
It's the
and
way
plus,
she,
well, also, yeah, and all asking to publish and all of that stuff. And do you recognize that? You're right. I see that all the time. But we also do see the lawyers, then put it up for everybody to see. And it's like, Judge, I don't know. She just seems so biased towards everything they want to do. She's like always, I don't know. To me,
she's a bit of an interrupter, like I just did right now. Mm-hmm.
But that's a perfect description. That's exactly what she does. It's like she won't even let them do their own case, which I don't know. I feel like there could be a problem if she gets convicted. I don't know. I feel like there could be a problem because I've seen other judges in some of the trials we've watched recently, in Letitia's and maybe in Lori's or Chad's. Like, they will usually give them plenty of time. And, even when it's a long day and they don't want to sit there anymore, they still know, I'm going to go ahead and let them present their case in full. And because it's important that they get it all out. This is a
Yeah,
big
they
deal.
hate
It's
to
someone's life.
interrupt a cross or a direct, or if they can avoid it.
Yeah.
It's like she interrupts and she throws off their flow. Do you know what I mean? Like, they will get some good momentum going, right? And then here comes Aunt Bev with, let's write up.
Yeah.
Move it along.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, I've never seen anything like it. And I have to say,
Or
I'm quite
sidebar.
shocked by it. Oh my God, with her sidebars.
Oh my
Is there
God.
candy over there, Aunt Beth? Like, are they bringing you, like, is there a charcuterie tray up there? What is happening? Now, Elaine from the Depp Heard trial, she loved a sidebar. And I was pretty much convinced that there was some kind of snack platter up there because she was always wanting to be at the sidebar. But Bev is over here talking about, I like to see everybody at sidebar. Just for no reason. None.
It's when she doesn't like where the testimony's going, and I think.
Yeah. And then everybody's got to shuffle around because, they chose a courtroom that is, probably big as a bedroom, and it cannot, all these people and all this equipment and everything crammed in there. They're all on top of each other. Ugh, it's too much.
Okay.
All right. Now
Hey,
for
a
real.
minute ago, Music City Mom said Nestor over there holding it or something.
He is. He's pacing. I can hear him.
Okay.
All right. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
And we'll take that into evidence and then.
That makes sense. May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
Okay, sir, I've handed you a photograph. Do you recognize what that depicts?
Yes,
What does it depict?
me and Kenny Berkowitz.
And is that a fair and accurate representation of you and Kenny Berkowitz?
You mean is the picture us?
Yes.
Yes.
I would offer that, Your Honor.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
55.
Oh.
May that be published to the jury on the screen, Your Honor?
Sure.
So, Mr. Albert, that's obviously you on the right and Kenny Berkowitz on the left.
Correct.
Have you seen that photo before?
I believe I've seen it.
Do you recall when?
I believe that's my fundraiser for when I was running for the select board, that event that I spoke of earlier.
Okay. And when would it have been that you saw that photograph?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it was on my Facebook page when I was running for select board. It looks familiar.
Has Mr. Lally shown you that photograph?
No.
Has he informed you that the defense would be introducing that photograph during this trial?
Nope.
You can take the photo down, Mr. Bates. And the lights can go on. You would agree with me that one of your functions as a selectman is to oversee public safety in the town?
Yes.
And you would agree that the police department is a key component of public safety in the town of Canton?
Yes.
So part of your duties as a town selectman is to oversee the Canton Police Department, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll let him have it. Is that one of your duties, sir?
I believe so. I'm new at that. I'm recently elected, so I'm just going through it. But yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
And you became a town selectman shortly after Kenny Berkowitz retired, correct?
I'm not sure when Kenny retired.
But you would agree with me that Kenny Berkowitz has both personal and professional relationships with you and members of your family, correct?
Can you rephrase that?
You would agree with me that the former Canton Police Chief, Kenny Berkowitz, has both personal and professional relationships with you and members of your family?
Objection, Your Honor. It's the same question.
No, go ahead and answer that question.
I'm not sure. I agree with that question.
Well, your brother Kevin Albert worked under Chief Berkowitz, correct?
Correct.
Would you consider that to be a professional relationship?
With them too, yes.
And your brother Brian Albert attended Chief Berkowitz's retirement party, did he not?
I have no idea.
But your brother Brian is also a friend of Kenny Berkowitz, is he not?
He may be, not sure.
And as far as your, ties to the Canton Police, you would agree with me that Lieutenant Michael Blank is a member of the Canton Police Department, correct?
He is.
And you've been friends with him for years, correct?
I've known him for a long time.
You've been childhood friends with them since the age of 12, correct?
Somewhere around there, maybe earlier.
And you're tight with him.
I don't know if I call it tight.
He's not an enemy of yours, is he?
Oh, God, no.
No, he's a friend of yours, correct?
Sure.
And does sure mean yes?
Yes.
Now, your older brother, Brian, you've already testified, was a Boston police officer for years, correct?
Correct.
And he achieved some notoriety on a television show, did he not?
Objection.
Okay.
He was in the fugitive unit?
Correct.
And you know that your brother Brian was also a trained boxer, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Brian is a lot bigger guy than you are, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Okay, I'm back. So I did Google what a selectman does because we don't have them. It's a New England thing. And basically, it says that a selectman serve as a town's chief executive body. They have the overall responsibility for the general operations of town government. They are usually the major non-school appointing authority for a town. They are authorized to enter into contracts on behalf of the municipality.
Yeah,
So-
we have a board here, like our town board, and so there's the mayor, and then there's the board, which has the president, vice president, and then a couple of I think they're just called like officers. So it's basically the same thing.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he's aware of what he's supposed to do there, though.
he should
Come
be.
on.
I
Oh,
mean,
for sure. You don't run for that office seat without knowing what you're going to be doing.
Yes.
yes.
He does the facial expressions like his brother. I can't stand it. It's like, I don't know if it's like I don't know, but they do these facial expressions especially with the defense while they're asking them questions, moving the mouth and the eyebrows. I don't know if it's an uncomfortable thing. He is extremely arrogant. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Like it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's answering with his face and not his mouth.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the triangle
Yes.
eyebrows don't help him any.
Especially when
No.
you can tell that he was like a little offended by him saying, your brother is a much bigger guy than you are.
Yeah.
He was like, you could tell, like he's the younger brother, it's already hard to be the second brother, like, come on, just like give him a break. Then you had to insult him. But then my favorite part about all of this, and we're going to see this as consistent throughout, is the denying of any type of relationship with some of these people. Like they don't claim them, but then he says, "Are you an enemy? Is
Oh God, no.
oh God, no." I'm just like, well, then why can't you claim him? Why can't you say you guys are
Yeah.
friends? Like, what's
he
the
your
big
friend?
deal?
Sure. Well, it's sure. Yes. Yes.
Right.
Well, I was
defense
kind of
attorney.
confused.
No,
I'm
but-
like, I thought, are they all this cocky with the sure? But then I've heard Judge Bev and others say it too. So maybe that's a Massachusetts thing to just say sure. Often.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't know, and that's the other thing. That they're like, okay, right now, Dietz and I would consider us to be friendly because I don't know anything about Dietz
Right.
other than the stuff that she has shared publicly on YouTube, right? We're not in the DMs together. She doesn't slip me any Mr. Pibb, none of that. Okay. But if somebody were to ask me on the stand, do you consider Dietz on the streets a friend? I would say exactly what I said. I wouldn't be like, what do you mean by tight? Tight? Mm-mm. Is she your enemy? Oh God, no. Like I don't want that smoke. But or that'd be like me denying Allie is my friend. Who? Alex Erickson, who?
Well, and the part of this is he knows exactly how close him and his family is to Berkowitz. So it comes across, and as the testimony comes out, because it's going to come out, it's going to come across to the jury as being evasive and defensive.
Yep.
And then what are they going to think of the rest of your testimony?
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, and Teacup, you guys, is from that area. And so she says, not sure if this is an all over thing, but using sure like this can be seen as really non-committal and dismissive, ... and pretty rude.
Okay. It's like K.
Mhm.
Instead of
Right.
typing okay. K
hate
is the
that.
rudest letter in the alphabet.
Mhm.
Yeah, apparently Jen and Wolfie don't like it. I didn't know. I didn't even know it was rude, but they both get on me over it.
She did K me one time. She did. Just once. Only once.
And then someone sent you okay. You're like, why you're mad at me? What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
I did not know that at all. For me, it's just like I'm in a hurry and like one hand texting or something while doing something else. And I'm just like, hey.
Yes,
But
sure is. That's it, Becky P. Sure is like bless your heart.
Yeah, that's how I take it too, I guess.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Now, sometimes I've said bless your heart, and I actually mean bless your heart in the nice way. Sometimes I mean it in the way, like, you
yeah.
fucking idiot, but
Mm-hmm.
most of the
Oh, you poor thing.
yeah, like, oh God, how have you
It's
not run your
interchangeable.
yeah. How
Yeah.
have you not run yourself over with your own vehicle? What's happening here? How are you allowed to be out running loose and not supervised? That's usually what I mean by it. Right. Here we go.
Your brother Brian Albert is someone who is close to his family, correct?
Yes.
And when I say his family, I'm talking about not just his wife and children, but also his extended family, correct?
Yes.
You were part of his family, obviously, correct?
Yes.
And your son Colin is part of his family, correct?
Yes.
The Albert family is close, correct?
Yes.
You all essentially grew up in Canton, correct?
Correct.
And you hung out with each other growing up, correct?
We were siblings, so
Of course.
yes.
And you still hang out with each other quite often, correct?
Like all of us,
In various combinations.
we have different relationships with my siblings.
Sure. But you see some more than others, but you hang out with your family, do you not?
Yeah, mostly during holidays.
He
Sure.
just doesn't. He's like, yeah. I mean, I know them. They're
Like,
my
why is he
siblings.
being so evasive? Because it's gonna come out here. I don't know if Benny's gonna get to it today, but it's gonna come out, that they have rituals where, and that's what they call it. They call it a ritual instead of a tradition. Like the rest of the world, we have, family traditions. They have family rituals where, with the donuts and the things like that.
Correct.
And
And one
so
of
they're
their rituals,
obviously close.
yes, and one of their rituals is this annual weight loss situation where it goes to like charity or whatever. And he used that word
Yeah.
ritual. And Karen Reed asked him that night at the bar if they were going to go back to his pizza shop and make pizzas. And he didn't want to because he was about to have to do a weigh-in. And, so yeah, there you go. They don't want to claim anything. It's like they just I've never seen anything like it. Y'all are family. What do you
Yeah.
mean you don't, what is
He
the
didn't
big
want to.
deal?
Yeah.
He didn't want to go get pizza because he was on a diet. But then when he was asked what he ate at the bar, he had wings and some beer.
And
Some wings and some beer.
and some chicken tenders for sure.
And
And probably
yeah.
take potato skins.
That's right. There was like all these things. Like, oh yeah, that's why you didn't want.
But you were worried
Okay.
about your weigh-in.
But you're
Okay.
exactly right, though, you guys. That it is gonna it makes it all look bad. Like, what's wrong with saying, yeah, man, me and my brother are close? Like,
Yeah, we're
I don't
tight.
know.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not even super tight with my family, and if someone asked me that, I'd be like, yeah, we're close. I mean, we're not super tight. Like my extended family, we're not super tight. But I would say, yeah, we're close because they're your family. Like they're wanting to
Yeah.
distance themselves from certain things, and it's just not going to go in their favor.
It looks bad. It is bad optics. All right, here we go.
And you go out for drinks together, correct?
Occasionally,
And you're
Occasionally.
protective of each other, correct?
like most families.
And if someone had a dispute with a member of the Albert family, Brian wouldn't be happy about that, correct?
Objection.
You know that Brian would stick up for your kids, correct?
Objection.
Your son Colin is particularly close to your brother Brian, is he not?
Objection.
I'll let him have that. Do you know?
Okay, before I just have to preface this a little bit. This is really what the meat and the potatoes of this cross-examination are about. I sensed a theme, and from all the testimony that I watched today, and they're going to talk about Colin, and then they're going to talk about Monster House and Mr. I looked it up.
Never cracker.
Yeah, Never Cracker. And yeah, and just wait. I'll be quiet.
Yes.
In fact, your son Colin was a football player through high school, was he not?
Yes.
What was his
This
number?
is dumb.
This is dumb.
In high school,
Yes.
34, I believe.
And was that for 34 Fairview?
I don't think so.
Now, you testified you moved to Maple Street in Canton.
That
not
might have been
long
a stretch.
Before January 28th of 2022,
That was, I
correct?
thought.
Correct.
And before that, you lived at 7 Meadows Ave in Canton?
Correct.
And that was when John O'Keefe was your neighbor, correct?
Correct.
I believe you testified he was a couple of houses away from you?
Yes.
And he was your neighbor for a series of years, was he not?
Yes.
While he was living in the neighborhood, you knew that he was working as a Boston police officer, correct?
Correct.
And you were familiar with him, correct?
And what do you mean? What do you mean familiar?
You knew who he was. You became familiar with
Yeah, he
him.
was my neighbor. I knew who he was.
And you knew that he was not married, correct?
Yes.
And at a certain point, you knew that he was dating Karen Reed.
Yeah, at some point.
Now, you would agree with me that your family has a police background, sir, correct?
I wouldn't agree with that statement.
What?
2 of your brothers are or were police officers, correct?
Out of 7 of us, yes.
And you knew friends of your brothers who were also police officers or in law enforcement, correct?
Correct.
And you would already testify that you know some members of the Canton Police Department, correct?
Correct.
And you socialized with police officers, did you not?
Have I? Sure.
You've been to bars with police officers, correct?
Correct.
And you've drank with police officers, right?
Sure.
And you were friendly with police officers, correct?
Yes.
And with regard to, I'd like to ask you some questions about people specifically connected to this case.
Uh-oh.
We've established that Lieutenant Lank has been a friend of yours for years, correct?
Yes.
We've established that you know former police chief Kenneth Berkowitz in such a way that you feel comfortable calling him before this jury Kenny Berkowitz, correct?
I know Kenny. Yep.
And he's actually donated to your campaign when you were running for town selectman, correct?
Correct.
And you
Uncomfortable.
also knew Michael Proctor prior to January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
You've attended social events together with him, have you not?
Objection.
Anytime you guys want
I'll
me
let
to
that one
pause,
pass.
just say something.
Couple.
Okay.
So at some point, Michael Proctor came to question you, did he not?
Along with another trooper. Correct.
And at the point in time when Michael Proctor came to question you, you knew who he was, correct?
Yes.
You knew him by face, correct?
Correct.
And you knew him by name, correct?
Correct.
There was no need for Michael Proctor to formally introduce himself to you, was there?
Objection.
What did he say when he first walked in the door in terms of introductions?
Objection.
Sustained.
Maybe we can see in the sidebar.
Sure.
Oh, here we go with the damn sidebar.
Sidebar Sally. It makes you wonder, like, what?
Wait a minute. Oh. It does make you wonder. Go ahead. No, say what you need to say. I'll push pause. Dee.
Without getting into the precise,
Oh, no, I'm good.
You sure?
I'm good. It just makes you wonder. Yeah, like, why? They just won't let him get it out. And that's why I want to know. I wish we could know what the grounds are. Thankfully, I've watched some lawyers commentate on this while it's live. So a lot of them know what the grounds are, but there's a couple of times they're like, I don't know what the objection would be for there.
Well, I think the greeting
So-
one, that would have been hearsay probably because you're not allowed to say what somebody said.
Yeah.
Because it goes to the truth of the matter. There are hearsay exceptions, but that one I think is going to be probably hearsay. And I think maybe one or two of them might have been relevance. But what else?
I wondered the same exact thing. I'm like, and she sustains them so fast. I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah. I
but we
remember
can't
hearing that.
figure out why though.
Yeah, what it
Dr.
would
B,
be.
we can like it feels like, how do you know if there is a trial error if the objections aren't spoken? It's the weirdest damn thing. It's like some weird ass code. I don't appreciate it. I am not a fan. Judge Beth, please don't do this in another trial that will be streamed.
But even if that wasn't even my thing, though, like them not being spoken. I understand that's the way they're doing this one, but for some of them, I couldn't think of what a possible objection, like what they could
Know what the
possibly be
grounds would
for.
be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to find that picture of Darrell Brooks. And every time there's an objection, I'm just going to put that as an overlay because I need to know the grounds. I am interested. Maybe I'm trying to learn. Judge Bev, did you think about that? There are other people, you know. Sheesh.
Wording, you'd agree with me that there was no need for Michael Proctor to formally introduce himself to you for that meeting, correct?
Yes.
He didn't need to say, "How do you do? I am Michael Proctor," correct?
No.
No.
Okay, that makes
Do
sense.
you consider the Proctors to be the Albert second family?
Objection.
Do you consider that?
No.
You are aware that there are members of the Proctors family who have posted publicly that the
Objection, Your
Alberts are the second family, correct?
So the objection is sustained and I'm striking that question. Disregard.
Damn.
Now, at the time that Trooper Michael Proctor showed up to question you, sir, you knew that Karen Reed had been charged in this case, correct?
Yes.
And you knew that John O'Keefe had been found dead on your brother's lawn, correct?
Correct.
Did it occur to you that it was odd that the state police sent somebody from the Proctor family to interview you
Objection, Your Honor.
on February 10th of 2022?
Sustained.
All right. Now, you testified that on January 28th of 2022, that day, that Friday that you were working, John O'Keefe stopped into D&E Pizza, your shop, correct?
Correct.
And there was discussion about whether you would be going out that night, and if so, where you would be, correct?
Correct.
Now, you've previously, on direct examination, characterized your relationship with him as being friends, correct?
Correct.
It's fair to say, however, that prior to January 28th of 2022, you had never exchanged personal information with John O'Keefe, correct?
You mean, I'm sorry, you mean like phone numbers or, but
A cell number prior to that day.
no, I didn't.
Okay, I got to stop this.
And at
Yeah,
that
that one's weird. This got weird.
Yeah. See, that stood out to me. Hey, Shambles.
Hey, Shambles.
I was this stood out to me because wait a minute, you guys were neighbors for all those years and this is the only time that he had your phone number.
Well, and we find out later they did some house sitting.
Yes.
It was a whole thing, and Julie had his number, but Chris didn't. I
Right.
don't know, but then again, I do feel like the perception I got of John O'Keefe was that everybody loved this man. Like, you haven't heard anyone say anything negative about him.
Right.
And everybody knew what he had done, that him stepping up for his niece and nephew. And it's almost like all this, so he steps up for his niece and nephew and all the soccer moms swooned, And so I
Of
kind of
course.
wondered if that's why he had, the wives' numbers in a lot of instances instead of the men, because women are helping with taking
That's a
kids
good
here,
point.
there, and everywhere. So that's a possibility.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Also, isn't it the contention of the prosecution, just while we're kicking it around, doesn't prove anything, but is it possible that part of the reason that Karen Reed was jealous and side-eyeing and always suspicious that he was cheating is because the soccer mom swooned?
Kind of like that. There was an incident in Aruba on New Year's Day with someone's family member. I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah.
I remember that. I remember
In
hearing about it
Aruba?
in the opening. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
it's
the
gonna
one
come up again.
where in the lobby or whatever, Karen came
Yeah.
and saw John like greeting them and thought they were hugging or I don't know, too close. And
She thought it was a
and-
kiss. She
Yeah,
thought
John's sister-in-law talked about it in her testimony, like, because it was her friend that told her all about it. But I guess that all got around the hearsay rule. But
wasn't it with somebody that was like family to John? Like somebody that he had been close with for a long time, or at least they argued that in the opening.
It was his sister-in-law's like best friend. Yeah, there's some type of connection there.
Huh.
I didn't bring my notes with me. I know I have it in there, but it's all right.
We'll come back to it. I wrote it down too, so we'll see. I mean, at this point, it proves nothing. It's just I do find the question evading problematic. It's kind of making me give these people the side eye. I'm not going to lie.
At the time, he had lived in your neighborhood for 4 to 5 years, correct?
Correct.
So I believe you've testified that that night after working, you went out around 10 minutes to 10 p.m.?
Roughly.
Before going out, did you have anything alcoholic to drink?
Think I may have had a beer at my pizza shop. I don't remember exactly.
So you have a refrigerator there that you can keep drinks cold, correct?
Among other things.
And you do have beers in that fridge for
Sometimes.
personal use?
Sometimes.
Do you know how many beers that you would have had before going out?
No.
And would you have drank that beer as you were cleaning up at the end of the night?
Probably.
Did you have anything to eat at the pizza shop?
No.
When did you last eat before you went out at 9:50 or so?
When did I last eat?
Yes.
It's a long time ago. I'm not sure.
Okay, but on direct, let me just say this.
And you knew that your wife, Julie...
On direct, he said when he got to the bar that night, he was starving because he hadn't eaten all day. Okay. Now we're talking about, this is not a continuation of testimony from a day before. Like he hasn't gone home and slept. There was literally just a recess, their morning break, and then that's it. And so
then he's like, yeah, now I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Wait, you just told us what you ate, dude.
Nothing. And you were he said it just like this. I was starving. That's what he said. All right, here we go. I'm trying to get to
was starting the night at CF McCarthy's, correct?
Yes.
And you couldn't meet her there because you were still working, right?
Correct.
But at some point you heard that Julie and others were headed to the waterfall, correct?
Yes.
And that was where you planned to go after you closed up D&E Pizza.
Correct.
With regard to the time that you left, 9:50 or so is your best estimate of when you're closing the doors and walking over to the waterfall?
Yes.
And the waterfall is a short walk to D&E Pizza?
Yes.
Maybe about 3 minutes?
About that.
And your plan was to walk there that night, correct?
Correct.
You had not taken a car to D&E Pizza anyway, right?
I don't believe so.
So what time did you get to the waterfall?
Shortly before 10. I don't know exactly.
All right. And I believe you've testified that John O'Keefe and Karen Reed were not there when you arrived, right?
Correct.
And the food that you ordered, do you remember what appetizers you would have gotten?
Probably like potato skins and some sort of chicken tenders. I would guess. It's 2 years ago, so I don't remember exactly.
chicken tenders are
Did you order a drink along with
delicious.
the appetizers?
I believe so.
All right, and that would have been the Miller Lite that you talked about?
I'll allow
Correct.
it.
Then not long after you got there, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins showed up, correct?
Correct.
And you had met Brian Higgins prior to that night.
Yes.
In fact, you had testified that you had seen him around quite a bit.
Okay, but Shambles, yes. Shambles says, but he did ask, when did you last eat before 9:50 or so? He was not talking about eating at the bar. That's correct. That is the question that he asked. However, on direct, he was asked, did he eat at the bar? And his answer was, I hadn't eaten all day. I ordered food. I was starving. Something to that effect. So if somebody asks you, wait, hold on, let me put this back up. When did you last eat before 9:50 and you hadn't eaten anything all day and you just testified to that? Wouldn't you just say, I just told you that I hadn't eaten all day? You know, that's the problem. It's those little tiny inconsistencies. And it's also the way that he says it. So it's like it comes across as he's being defensive, and it makes you wonder, maybe just me.
Why are you being defensive about
Right.
food?
Like, why you got your hair up? Listen, I love chicken tenders and potato skins. Yes, I love all the snacks. Thank you very much. I'll eat any snack. I eat like my parents are out of town for the weekend. I live on snacks. So, I mean, I just don't get it's defensiveness and hostility over what seem to be tiny and insignificant details. So I think I should go forward a little bit because I think we need, all right, here's where we're going to get to the texts. And then we're going to talk about this dadgum Mr. Nevercracker situation. Okay. And then we might just go ahead and skip to Julie because Julie ain't no better.
So you mean that's to tell him to come over to the waterfall?
Hold on. I didn't mean to push play. Sorry, Deets. What were you saying?
You're fine.
Man.
I was just going to say, Julie, that's going to be a long one because she says some things.
Julie. All right, here we go.
I didn't understand what you meant.
That's fine. So you're telling John O'Keefe this, correct?
Yeah, I'm telling him to come over and meet us.
All right. And that little emoji, that face emoji after, if not, I'm going to fuck up your lawn. That's
it's a laughing face.
Right. So
it's a joke.
And you're cracking up.
Yeah, it's a joke.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. Apologize.
Let me just say that Judge Boyce would have cut this shenanigans, nipped this in the bud 27 questions ago. They've been talking over each other and interrupting each other this whole time. And Judge Boyce hates that. And he has no shame about getting onto a witness and a prosecutor or a defense attorney prior about doing that.
Well, it's really hard for the,
court reporter.
Very hard. Like, take your turn.
I think I'll try to put it right here. So basically, there's no this text message is very innocuous. It's a joke.
That's what I thought. I took it as a joke as well, and I felt like it was another out in the weeds moment for the defense. The same as the football jersey number being 34. But someone did bring up a good point to me about that.
Okay.
Jersey number was the fact that was the family address. If you think about it, it was the family home, like all the Alberts.
True.
It's possible one of their numbers, one of, maybe Brian's numbers in sports, whether it be basketball or football or something, maybe 34 was his number too. So maybe it wasn't so much about the address, but the connection to his uncle. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about
that. But I do think that it was a wild one. I was like, that
is too far.
Seemed like a stretch.
Right. And this is clearly a running joke between neighbors because at one point what had happened was it wasn't Colin. According to Chris, it was Dylan. Dylan was 9 or 10 years old and he was coming home from school and he cut across John O'Keefe's yard. And John O'Keefe said to him, get off my yard or get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah.
Which, I feel that. I'm very picky about my lawn too. Stupid kids cutting across my lawn.
So then I guess it was discovered which child he belonged to. And John O'Keefe felt bad about it. And he asked Julie, what is, what's his name? Dylan's favorite candy. And John O'Keefe went and bought him a bag of candy because he felt bad. But so to me, I'm going to say what I think. To me, it sounds like what the defense is trying to say is that there was some prior beef because they're very stuck on Colin and where Colin was and when he was there. And to me, it seems like that's what they're trying to say, that there was some type of beef between John O'Keefe and Colin, and that is what sort of precipitated this whole thing, which doesn't make, I don't understand that either because they haven't really, they're alluding to it. They're not putting it because they're not.
Well, I don't know if you want me to give you like a spoiler alert or do you want me to just only discuss the things that are mentioned so far in trial?
What you think, Allie? Do we want a spoiler alert? Oh God.
Yes.
Yes, we want a spoiler alert. We're already, we're cheating already.
It's just a pre-trial motion. So they were going for third-party culprit, and Judge Cannoni, she said, I don't even know who your culprit is. Like, you have to tell me who you're suspecting. And Yannetti argued, I don't have to give you a name. Like, we don't have to state who we believe the culprit is. We can just push the jury in that direction. but if you want it, here it is. And they laid out 3 possible suspects and who they believed could have done something to John. One was Colin, one was Brian Higgins, and one was Brian Albert. So those 3 are the defense's suspect of who was involved.
Gotcha.
Wait, who was the first one though? I didn't hear the Higgins,
Colin.
Albert, and
yeah,
okay.
Colin Higgins and Brian Albert.
Okay.
And they went into some reasonings for all 3 of them. I won't give you that spoiler alert.
Why? Now you can't do. Okay.
Let me just tell you that some of the reasonings for Higgins, I dropped my jaw. I went live and I was like, "What?" Because it was insane. Like, and we had never heard some of that stuff before. So I think they're pressing hard on the Colin based on what they said pre-trial. I'm leaning towards Higgin if there is anyone, but it's interesting watching them. She denied them going for a third party culprit in their opening, but said that they could naturally lead the jury that direction. And so maybe that's the emphasis here throughout the trial, why they're emphasizing some of these points that the rest of us are like, dude, stop, but maybe because
Gotcha.
they aren't allowed to come out and say, we believe it was this person or we believe it was that person. So they're pushing the jury a certain way.
Gotcha. And then here comes Dr. B. And Proctor covered it up with bukkake.
Bukkake.
Okay. Now that did happen. I did hear it today. And I laughed as hard as it happening as I did when Dr. B told me about it in chat. So, in fact, I spent a good portion. I had to pause because I was laughing so hard. Because, like, wait till we get there. But you guys,
it's funny.
She says it, and like nobody. I think everybody was waiting for somebody to react, and nobody would react. And I was waiting for somebody to react, and they were all much more mature than I was. Okay, so then it's going to be this whole green thing, blah blah blah. Then they're going to show the waterfall footage, from the bar, and he actually left at 10. No, what time did he leave? Hold on, I wrote it down. Hold on, I'll tell you in a second. Let me get to Julie. But I'm not going to play it. Okay, so then they play the waterfall surveillance. And I wrote it down. Where the hell did I write it? Shit. I guess he actually arrived home at like 12:20 because he didn't leave the bar until 12:13. That's right. Here it is.
Yeah, they were both kind of wrong on their time.
Yes. I will give you guys a little bit of a spoiler alert. It's interesting because when Chris testified, he said that he arrived home somewhere between 12:05 a.m. and 12:10 a.m. And Julie said the exact same thing.
Yeah, it was the exact same number.
Now, if we were playing the newlywed game, I would not think twice about this because the goal of the newlywed game, as y'all may know, is for your answers to match. Okay. So if that's what we were playing, I'd be like, okay, but I think that it would be very difficult for if we picked out 10 people, all couples, so 5 couples all together, and we asked them the exact same question: what time did your spouse get home? I don't think that everybody would give an exact number like that. I do not think that their answers would match exactly like that because they usually don't. That's just human nature.
Right.
And it's very true. By the way, fun fact, me and Mr. Dietz won the newlywed game on a big cruise ship one time. So that was kind of
fun.
Did you? I love that. I love that.
But also, I agree with you. When eyewitness testimony is kind of different, like I think Emily Baker went through this today, like, talked about this very topic, like, when it varies slightly, like, "Oh, I got there at 12:05." If one of them would have said 12:05 and the other would have said 12:10, like, "Oh, okay." They're pretty close, they're just kinda going off of their memory. That's not as big of a red flag as if they are exact, like, you know, "Nope, 12:05 to 12:10." Like, boom, boom. Like, that's coached. It just sounds coached, and we can all
It's
pick up on the fact that it sounds coached.
it sounds coach and it sounds like cahoot and cahooters. That's what it
Yep.
sounds like. It sounds like two people
Let me
who've
get the
spoken
time right, yeah.
correct and agreed, okay, they got home. We're gonna say you got home at 12 between 12:05 and 12:10. And here's the thing. So Julie left early, okay? Like she'd been there, but she was only there and she only stayed in the bar maybe, according to her, 10 or 15 minutes after John and
Right.
Karen got there, because she said the music was loud, which they were sitting like directly basically in the band's lap.
Mhm.
And it was loud and it gave her a migraine. And she also said, which I thought was interesting, that she waited up for
Okay.
her
Let
son.
me ask you this question.
Okay.
So,
He was
first of all, I get the doting mother waiting up for your 17-year-old son, because I was like that too. I wanted to wait up for my kids. However, if I knew my husband was gonna be home, I would've this is what I would have done. If I had a real migraine, my butt would have went home, taken a migraine pill, and I would have been out within 5 or 10 minutes.
right.
Or if I choose not to take that migraine pill because I do want to wait up for my son, I'm going to be in a dark bedroom with an ice pack, rotating an ice pack and a heating pack on the back of my neck. But I know everybody's migraines are different. But I don't know. I just would not be sitting up in a brightly lit room or anything like that, or
Just
watching
sitting there.
TV or
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
I don't think most people want lights on at all when they I don't get migraines,
I
but you
don't.
always hear that.
Light affects me.
I only ever have had, thank God, one migraine in my whole life. And and it made me nauseated. It made me, didn't want to hear anything and I didn't want
Mhm.
to see anything. And then I've never had one before. And this thing came out of nowhere. And finally, after I'd had it all day and I had taken Tylenol and I couldn't get rid of it, finally, my friend said, why don't you try this? And she gave me Advil migraine. And within, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes after I had taken it, it went away. But it was the worst pain it's the worst
It
headache I've ever
is.
had in my entire life. I've never had anything like that,
And
ever.
I get them like they go behind my ears into the base of my head. And I only have like one or two, maybe three a year. So it's not like all the time. But it's like, if it hits me while I'm out and about, I might even lay down in the back of my car for a while. Like, they are debilitating to me. So, like, I get if she got a
Right.
migraine and went home, I would understand that it's the actions afterwards. But then I also wonder, like, sometimes my kids would be like, "Oh, I have a migraine," and they really just have a headache. And I did that before I had an actual migraine. Be like, "Oh, I've got a migraine right now," and then come to find out, no, that was just a headache. Because once you have a
Right.
migraine, you know the difference.
You know what I think happened? I
Mm.
think the reason why their times are fuzzy is because she waited up for him, not for her son, for her husband. He had some drinks. They were probably flirting. She probably did have a
Mm.
headache. She went home.
Mhm.
She took a little Tylenol. She waited for her husband, and they don't want to talk about that they got frisky, which I don't blame them. That's nobody's business. But I kind of suspect that's what happened because
Well,
he
the
got
brother has
home.
no problem talking about being frisky, so why not?
Different strokes for different folks. Some people are very private about that. I'm private about, like, people know that I love my husband, but you will never see anything public like that. We don't write gushy Facebook posts to each other like that. The last time
Aw.
we made out in public was like, I can't even remember. It's been a long time. We'll hold hands and stuff like that, but we're private like that. We're not.
You're not into PDA.
No,
Right.
no, not since I was like 8. I mean, when we first met, we were making out all over the place. We're 18 and 21. What do 18 and 21-year-olds do? They make out everywhere, you know? So yeah, we were like that. But as we got older, we just weren't like that anymore because we always had kids with us. It's not, but anyway, I think that's what happened, because when both of them are questioned, mainly on cross, about the routine, about coming home, and he didn't brush his teeth, there's just this face that they both kind of make around that same question that makes me think, okay, it was a little bit of a Marvin Gaye moment. Let's get it on. And they don't want to talk about it. Okay. So leave him alone, which is why he can't remember how long it took him to fall asleep, because he wasn't sleeping. Leave him alone. Just about that part.
They're being evasive about something. I'll give you
Yes.
that. I don't know if it's the Marvin Gaye moment, but they're definitely being evasive.
I think the rest of it is less than it's. I think the rest of just that one moment is what I think, you know, just
Sitting listening to a band.
So at least during the time that you were there were no sort of arguments or disagreements or anything like that?
Nope, nothing.
And specifically to Mr.
Hold on,
O'Keefe and the
trying
defendant,
to-
Ms. Reed, while you were there,
please, Law and Crime, put the freaking her direct was really quick.
Better to look like somebody who has sex
Correct.
with their husband than
And,
somebody
why
who
was-
covers up murder.
That's
he
what
just- I
I'm
don't think he
saying.
was showing up.
Listen, if I was up there and I felt like they were trying to push that narrative on my ass, I would come completely clean. Yes, we banged. Thank you very much. It was fantastic. Moving on. That's what I was being evasive about. But now I'm just going to tell you the truth because I don't like the way this is going. All right. So there, can't I find?
So Colin is their son? That's what Missy
Yes.
says.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Colin is their son. Colin is Chris and Julie's son, which is the homeowner's nephew.
Right. Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know that when you said that was like the third alternative suspect. I didn't know who that was.
Mm-hmm. Which is what a lot of people think, and you'll understand a lot. So now that you know that Colin's their son, you're going to take the direct quite differently, I bet, than you did before, because the connection and the conversations that Julie has and who she has them with is very important.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So, okay. So with Julie, what I took away a lot was this is how she found out about what happened to John O'Keefe. So it is her ritual every year for his birthday. She takes, and she's very specific about this, 6 Dunkin' Donuts over to the Albert house. This is for Brian Jr.'s birthday. Over to the Albert's house and leaves them for him, which is what she did that Saturday morning. She got up, she took herself to Dunkin', she got him his donuts, and she pulled up in the driveway. She went to Brian Albert Jr.'s car, and she went to put the donuts in his car. Now, mind you, 2 hours prior is when the 911 call came from Karen Reed. This is when she finds John O'Keefe. Okay. She says she got there somewhere between 8:30 and 8:45. There was no crime scene tape. There was nothing. There was no indication at all that anything had happened. But as she goes to put the donuts in his vehicle, Brian Albert Sr. is at the door. And he wants her, not the front door, the side door. He wants her to come in, which kind of, I don't know why they call it a side door, because it's not on the side of anything. It's actually on the front of the house, but it's next to where the garage is.
Yeah.
It's weird. I've never seen anything like that before. So she's kind of like, what the fuck? She's confused. So she goes in, and that's when they decide that's when she's notified. So she leaves. She goes back to her house. She tells Chris what happened. He gets up, he gets dressed. They go back over to the Alberts house. They stay for another 30 minutes, and then they leave back to their house. But everything about that is sort of like, okay, that makes sense. But what doesn't make sense, right? Wait, hold on. I'm not there yet. Some of that stuff seems rather, I shouldn't say makes sense, innocuous, right?
Yes.
What I don't understand is the lack of questions. She's told something happened to John O'Keefe. She doesn't ask what, she doesn't ask why, and she doesn't ask if he's okay. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's in my opening. What time is it that John O'Keefe is pronounced dead?
7:50, 59, 50 or 59. I can never remember because they wrote it wrong on one of the reports, so I always have it opposite. But yeah. Let me ask you this question.
No asking nothing. No questions.
I see a serious question though.
Okay.
If your sibling called you at, I don't know, say 5:30 a.m. and you miss that call,
right?
And you wake up and you see a missed call from your sibling at 5:30 a.m., what would you do?
Call them back.
Immediately. Yeah.
Immediately.
Because your siblings aren't going to call you at the ass crack of dawn, right? Like mine wouldn't. They would wait until a decent hour unless something serious happened.
Correct.
But she had a missed call from Jen McCabe. I guess she wasn't a sibling, but she was, super close or whatnot, but basically family by proxy. And she didn't return that call. I find that extremely weird.
And it's interesting that now, see, I know me and I know my sister. If my sister had called at that time of the morning and I didn't answer her call, my sister probably would not leave a voicemail because the missed call is the voicemail. But because we both feel that way.
Right.
But what she would have done is she would have sent a text.
Mm-hmm.
To let me know, listen, this was not a butt dial. This is serious. I need for you to call me back immediately. But she doesn't. She goes on about her day. Now, Missy's Angel's theory is this. This is only my opinion, but Julie went in the morning in a blizzard to drop off donuts is a lie. She went there to pick up Colin, who spent the night there, found out what happened, and took Colin home.
It's a theory.
I can't say one way or another how I feel about that yet because I am to the point, like Allie and I don't know anything behind anything. So we're just taking the, we know a little something because Deets told us, but nothing, that's not going to, I'm not going to let that, play into how I feel about guilt or innocence. I'm going
right. Because it doesn't matter. That's all pre-trial stuff.
I'm just going to trial. Yeah. I'm just going to base it on this evidence, but I will say they are evasive and I can't quite put my finger on it. I do kind of think though that I don't know why I think this, like I can't give you a reason why. It's just that their uncomfortableness around this whole situation, it's not about when Colin came in. It's about when he came home, when Chris came home and what was done. They're both very uncomfortable about that. And as far as timelines go, Karen Reed's car was seen at about 12:15 a.m. outside of the Alberts home. So there's like that little time. I mean, maybe it was a quickie, and they don't want to, I don't know, but there's something about that routine or whatever that they're uncomfortable with. And that's why I kind of think maybe they did have a little nookie,
I don't know. Go ahead, Deets.
No, I'm just gonna warn you that right now, you'll agree that the Commonwealth is not doing a very good job laying out the timeline.
Oh God, no.
Okay, So you just said that Karen Reed's car was seen outside of the home at 12:15. You were able to pull that from somebody's testimony, right?
No, I pulled it from Court TV when I was looking for pictures and the timeline
Okay,
to
well
put in my.
that comes from somebody's testimony so far, and let me just tell you, be open to that moving
Okay.
because the Commonwealth is not doing a good job of laying out this timeline. And so one of the, those witnesses are saying like, yeah, like today, Julie Nagel said, yeah, my brother got there at 12:15. Be open to that changing when we get to the expert witnesses.
Okay, like I'm open to everything. I
Yeah.
don't have like anything. I will say this. I find it a little bit concerning that we are as far as we are 8 days into a trial and we don't really know anything about other than like John O'Keefe, other than the first responders. And
Yeah.
I thought about that and I was thinking, okay, well, what could that reason be? And I'm thinking that the way that that the Commonwealth has decided to lay this trial out is they're working backwards the way that they would have done it in an investigation. So it started with finding John O'Keefe. And everything from there worked backwards. What happened the night before and in the days, like that. And so I think that's how they're presenting their case. But I feel like
I don't know.
it's a little disjointed in this way.
If you want my honest opinion, not that you asked for it, but
I
I'll
want,
give it to you anyway.
listen, that the ask for your honest opinion was impolite when I put you on this panel.
I think that the Commonwealth is chasing the defense. They know exactly what the defense's case is going to be when they when they get to give their direct, and the Commonwealth is trying to chase that, and they're doing a horrible job. Horrible job in doing
That
so.
is a really good observation, and I think probably closer to the truth than what I'm saying. And because it doesn't feel like they're actually laying out a case.
Yeah. So you have to know that during all the pretrial hearings, and I've said it myself, like, oh, the Commonwealth's theory of the case is this. And then another hearing will happen for something, and the defense will say that exact thing. Like, this is what the Commonwealth's theory is. Well, then Lolly will get up and argue and say, that's not our theory. That's not what we laid out. And I'm like, what? Yes, you did. Like 2 months ago, I heard you lay it out as that. And then it'll happen again and again. It happened 3 times in pretrial hearings, very similar situations. And it wasn't until we got to trial and I'm watching this unfold that I realized maybe it's like he's what is it? Like arguing things in the moment during those pretrial hearings
Oh, like making it up on the fly?
Yeah, versus like having it all laid out. Like, I'm just picture I don't know what a prosecutor would actually do, but I would picture there's a giant whiteboard in the room and they've got it all laid out and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I don't think he has that at all. He's got like a pile of all this information and someone told him, yeah, go charge, here's your case, go charge with it. And he's just like combating,
Hey, Nanya.
swatting the dodgeballs that they fly at him. I don't feel like they're doing a good job of laying it out, but he knows what the defense is going to argue because they've been arguing it for 2 years in pretrial motions and hearings. And so he's trying to combat that.
But that's not Mr.
Smart.
Lally.
Yeah.
This is not a good game plan, sir. And I'm telling you this as respectfully as I can, but I'm going to have to like throw a little humor in it because otherwise I'll just be upset. Listen, I'm watching your trial, your case as objectively as one possibly can. I don't know any of the details. I haven't retained any of the pretrial stuff and none of that. But I can't figure out what you're trying to do. So if I can't figure out what you're trying to do, and this is something that I do all the time, which is to watch trials, your jury is lost.
No, for sure.
They are
totally
lost. You're not connecting any dots. And by the way, maybe tonight while you're home thinking about things, watch Lindsay Blake. She's over there in Idaho. All right. Watch her redirect. Because, see, what redirect is to do is to close any holes or gaps that cross examination may have opened. So you're supposed to shut all of that, close it all down. You are not doing that.
No, it's like he's just using it as a second direct instead of a redirect, if that makes sense.
Yes, this is what it is. It's like ass backwards. It's he is trying to, Wanderer says it perfectly. Yes, I feel like he's not trying to prove Karen guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. He's trying to create reasonable doubt about the defense's case. Yeah. And it's not even their case to the defense, they're not even putting their case on at this point.
Yeah.
Well, it's bizarre. It definitely, I was going to say that before Wonder even put that in there. I was going to say it's like he's more concerned about defending, the Alberts or whatever than proving that Karen did this. And it comes across as very bizarre. It's like, why? What do these people have on you, buddy? I don't know. It's just weird.
It's super disjointed. It's very like trying to justify that the Albert family has friends in law enforcement. Instead of just saying, this would be my attitude, which probably would not serve me very well, but this is the attitude I take on the YouTube streets. So why the hell would I not take it in court? I'm friends with who the fuck I'm friends with. I like who I like. Moving on. Mm-hmm. I don't got to justify nothing to you.
It's like
I'm not the one on trial.
Well, it's like they came up with a whole plan of, okay, I know they're going to ask about our connections and our friendships and stuff. And they're like, oh, all right. Instead of just owning up to that crap and being like, yeah, I know them. And, we're surface level close, but we're not deep close. Instead of doing that, they come up with this whole sidestep thing, and it gets them caught and makes them look even guiltier. And they might not be guilty of anything at all.
Correct.
But right now they're looking hella sus on the stand, and they're not even the ones on this. They're not defendant. So it's weird.
It is weird. Really weird. Just say you're friends. Listen, the whole Albert family, for the most part, has testified. Okay, I'm not. I haven't gotten all the way through all of them, but at this point, and they've all admitted that for the most part, Chris moved there when he was 4. Everybody else has been there. Brian obviously moved there when, he's older, so whatever. But for the majority of their life, they have lived in Canton. Okay. Of course you're going to know people like that.
There's one point where Brian Albert is asked about his neighbor's address, and he's like, I don't know. You don't know the house number of the person of the house next to you that was your childhood? This is your childhood home.
Right.
You're telling me you can't come up with the number 32?
That's another thing. Let me point this out. The numbers of the street, the houses on the streets, it's not like they're 4 numbers. Okay. Okay. They're 1 and sometimes 2. Okay. We're talking about 30. The house address is 34 Fairfield, which means, I don't know how many there are total, but it's 34 for fuck's sake. How can you not remember 3 and 4? They come right after each other.
And you don't know that the neighbor is just one less, and by one, because on the same side, they're asking about the neighbor on the same side. So this is like this everywhere in the country that I'm aware of. On one side, it's the odd numbers. On the other side, it's the even numbers. So your neighbor's going to be the even number. So just go down, too.
Right. Did we all not learn about how neighborhoods work from the street? Does nobody remember who are the people in your neighborhood? Oh, wait, that might have been Mr. Rogers.
Oh, I don't know.
It's one of the two.
Rogers.
It's one of the two, or probably both. But I remember learning about evens and odds from, like every Gen Xer, TV. TV and school is where I got the most of my education. Clearly.
I learned all I know. No, not all I know about a lot of what I know starting about the Constitution comes from Schoolhouse Rock.
Thank you.
I can appreciate it.
Thank you. So see, it is Sesame Street. I couldn't remember Porky. Okay, so yeah, there you go. And I don't know, it's just weird. Now, so now we're going to get to the point where Julie is going to testify.
Oh, I wanted to add one more thing before you start Julie up.
Yes, ma'am.
You said that Lolly is confusing the jurors. There are times where I watch him confuse his own witnesses. His statements, his questions are so combobulated. They're asking him, "Can you please rephrase that?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, if you have your own witnesses lost out in the weeds, they don't know what you're talking about. You would think you would go home at night and rewatch what you did that day and be like, okay,
Yes.
I need to change this, I need to change that. Maybe don't do this as much." I couldn't help it if it was me. I would be watching some of the commentators on me too, be like, ooh, okay, I need to
Yeah, I
fix
would
that.
too.
I need to
Yeah.
fix that.
Yes.
I'm just an overly critical person though of myself, so maybe that's just a me thing.
That's how you grow. No, because Deets, there was a situation not that long ago, and there was some very harsh things said about me in a comment section. And it was hard to read, but I did read it. And I had to take a step back and say to myself, okay, obviously some of this is they're written just to be mean. But there is some of it even though it was harsh, it was constructive criticism. And so I read it as hard as it was, and I was like, okay, let me try to work on myself, except for the intro. For a live, that's never going to change. If I like a song, I'm not cutting it in half. I'm going to play the whole damn song. So if the song I like is 4 minutes, the intro will be 4 minutes long. I'm sorry about that, but listen, that's just one of the things that the magic that is me.
Well, I always say that people that we're playing calls, they got to be listening. Like, I would think that I would be watching back commentators of my testimony too. If I was in these calls, I'd be listening. I'd need to know. Yeah.
I agree. I just would want to know. And so just to hear that, I've caught it 3 times where his own witnesses are just completely lost. And I'm like, dude, if your witnesses are lost,
Yes.
you need to reel it in.
For reals. For reals. Now here's Wanderer. Wanderer, I feel like you're not new to the channel. Now, you know damn right well that if you put some song lyrics up in a comment and I read it, I'm going to have to finish it. So here we go. Conjunction, junction, what's your function? Hooking up sentences, clauses, and phrases. Conjunction, junction has that function. All right.
No, I'm laughing so hard, Biddy, because I just said the first little bit with you, and then my husband he's over next to me, he started humming and singing it too. Like, we all know that,
Except me. What is that? I don't know it.
You don't know School of Rock, Allie?
Schoolhouse. Yeah.
Schoolhouse Rock. You don't know that?
What
You
is
don't
it?
know
Is that like the
3?
Jack Black movie?
You don't know the
No.
one, I'm just a bill
On
on
Capitol
Capitol
Hill.
Hill.
No.
Okay, well, we'll send you
His
to
magic
it.
number. Yeah,
It's
I'm
how
going to
you'll
send you
learn
these
all
too.
the important parts of our government.
Correct. You are going to learn all life's most important skills you can learn from Schoolhouse Rock. You can learn about the government.
Wait,
You
what
can
is
learn
it, though?
about,
It's just
Is
like
it a-
kids' songs to help you
Yeah.
learn about the Constitution, about the judicial system, the Bill of Rights, things like that. But
Is
the
it a
music
show?
coming like when did that come out? Like the 70s or 80s? And so it's like cheesy cartoons doing it.
It used to be
Oh, okay.
on Saturdays in between cartoons.
Mm.
So it was
okay.
more, it wasn't like its own separate show, but it was more than a commercial.
We learned them in
okay.
I think that our teachers in like junior high used them in class. That's how I know all of them.
It's funny.
Luke
Yeah,
said he
I
watched
didn't
it
know.
as a kid, so it must have been on Luke calls the free channels that you get, the FBO, the Farmers
Yes, like
Box Office.
PBS.
Yeah. So he probably watched Saturday morning cartoons, and that's where he heard them.
That's where I heard it, on Saturday morning cartoons, like somewhere in between the Smurfs and the Snorks. One of those.
Nunya says, now I'm convinced Alex is probably Gen Z.
I know, she's totally not a Gen Xer, is she?
No,
I'm
Allie's a millennial.
You're
Yeah.
a millennial, Allie?
She-
My kids
Yeah.
are millennials.
My kids are millennials too,
No, you're a Gen Xer.
but
I
I'm
was
a
born
Gen
in
X.
89.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
she's a-
you're like on the cusp then.
yes.
I graduated in 2007. I just figured I was like when I remember when I was younger and that
Minnie
millennial
Bindi
term
was
came
born-
out.
Oh my God. Minnie Bindi was born in 2005.
Aww.
So Allie's graduating high school, and yeah, good Lord.
Let me see. What age are millennials? I'm gonna
It
find out.
depends.
for sure.
Like some of the charts that they use, I'm not a Gen Xer. I'm like a,
I'm 77. I'm smack in the middle
but
of
I'm
Gen
still
X.
going with it. I feel like I'm right there at the end of Gen X. I'm taking it though because I'm from the Midwest and we were always, years behind everybody else in the country. So
Oh
we're
my
gonna go with Gen X.
I was explaining to Allie, I was saying, we were talking about Gen X, and I was like, you don't understand. We were latchkey kids. Here comes sweet
Mhm.
Allie. What is that?
What's a latchkey?
She didn't know what a latchkey kid is. And I was like,
No.
we came home alone. We had a
We drank
key.
water out of a hose. We
Correct.
come from an era where we had part of our life and typically junior high and at least some of our high school years without any internet. Like,
Correct.
yeah.
Correct.
Well,
there was no
when I
internet in
see-
1995 when I was supposed to graduate.
So look here. It says in 2023, millennials would be between the age of 27 and 42. I'm
Mhm.
34, so I'm definitely one. But it's between the ages of 81 and 1996. So
Yes.
I'm
When you
actually
were
closer to the
born?
cusp of Gen Z. I was born in
Mhm.
89, so I'm like on the
What were those
other
years again?
89 to
81.
96 or 81.
81. Yeah, 81
See,
to
that's what I'm
96.
talking about. So that by that I would be a millennial, but there's other charts that have us in like up to 85 as a Gen Xer. So I'm sticking with that one. Because I feel like I fit better with the Gen X crowd, like I said, because we're from the Midwest. So
My
we're just a
two
little
boys-
farther
Behind a
behind.
little bit.
Yeah, my two boys are
Behind with the
millennials.
trends and stuff.
But what's after millennial, Gen X or Gen Z?
Yeah,
Because
Gen
that's
Z.
yeah, the girls are Gen Zs, and
that's
then
born from
Minnie
97
Bendy.
to 2012. Then it's
Yeah.
Gen Alpha.
Yeah,
I guess I only have one millennial and one Gen Xer then, or Gen Zer for a kid then.
yeah.
Okay.
I have half and half. The boys are millennials. The girls are Gen
Uh-huh.
Zers.
I know, but it's the year. It looks like, wait, they're only 14 months apart, but they're still, one's a millennial and one's a Gen Zer, I guess.
They're in different generations.
They are.
Well, my Trenton is a Gen Z and Bentley is a Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha just sounds like
When did Gen Alpha start?
That's
2013.
yeah. This is the
Is
new
that the-
generation, and they're already ragging on these Gen Alphas on the Tickety Talks already.
Is that the
These are
one
kids.
they tried to get it to be that like the Gen I for like the iPhone generation? Like one they like TikTok tried to get a movement going and
Probably.
it didn't
Oh
work.
Lord.
It didn't work.
Probably, but
TikTok.
Gen Alpha sounds better. It sounds like just badass. Like I want to be
It
a Gen
does.
Alpha.
But I tell you what, if you're in a down mood or you're having a bad day, anything like that, the best way to perk yourself up is to go over to
Mhm.
TikTok and type in Gen X, and you will have the funniest skits ever. I just
Absolutely, you
love 'em.
will. And then just after you do that, then just go to your For You page, right? So after you
Yeah.
do all that, then it'll come up where there's 11 billion TikToks of other generations warning, mostly it's the millennials warning the other generations not to mess with the Gen Xers. Don't poke them. Don't call them out. Don't make stitches that say if you had to pick, Gen X is the worst generation. You don't want any part of them. So apparently everybody, all the other generations are supposed to be scared of the Gen Xers. We had it kind of, we didn't have, we weren't required to wear seatbelts as kids. We didn't have
I
to
didn't
wear
have a car
helmets.
seat. My parents
Mm-mm.
didn't have car seats for us. Like my youngest brother, he's like 4 years younger than me and
Wow.
my brother. He had a car seat. He like in that span of 4 years, then car seats happened. But like my mom's like, no, I remember as a kid riding in the back package tray of the car. Did you ever do that, Bendy? Like that
Yes.
shelf back there, like in the back window, just like getting up
What?
there. Yeah,
Yes.
so you
Oh
could like
God.
get up there, lay on the back. I don't know why it was called the package
I
tray,
don't know
but
how y'all survived.
We're fine and we're
riding in the
tough.
back of a pickup truck with no tailgate, and like I remember you were a big kid when you were allowed to set up on the rim instead of just down on the
Feral.
wheel well.
Do you know how many times I rode in the back of a pickup truck?
Oh, I did that all the time, but I
You know,
also grew up in the country, so everybody's still
I
riding in
went
the
in
back
the
of pickup.
no, this was a regular ass city in Arlington. Yeah, rode in the back of a pickup truck, going to parties.
Regular ass
Hey,
city.
I tell you what, there
We're making out like that.
airbags have nothing on the mom arm. Back in
No,
the
my
day, that mom
mom. Oh
arm
my
was
God.
Oh my
definitely
God.
safer than an airbag.
My mom does that still if I ride with her.
Yes.
And I remember one time my mom did that, and my dad said to her, "Don't ever do that again because you're going to break your arm, and if they break it just right, your bone is going to impale your children. Stop doing that."
Ooh.
Yeah, my
Oh.
dad was like that though. He would he's not wrong, but he would say it in such a way that it would scare. But I learned from that. Like one time my boys were jumping on the beds, and I went in there and I said, "Quit jumping on those beds." And okay, Mom, I leave. They're right back there. And I said, if you don't quit jumping on those beds, what if you fall and you break your neck and they have to feed you through a tube? Is that what you want?
That's what we got as Gen
But that's
Xers.
how
We
I
got
was
heavy,
raised.
copious amounts of guilt.
That's
as our
how I was raised.
punishment.
Exactly. Is
But
that what you want? Will that make you happy? No.
Missy said it perfectly that parents couldn't find us, and they couldn't. But the thing
No.
was, they weren't looking for us, and they told us to get lost. They're
Correct.
like every summer, like as soon as Mom woke up from bed, we're in there watching cartoons. She'd get out of bed. She'd be like, "What are you guys doing in the house still? Get out of here!"
Yeah.
You know. And we might come back for lunch. We might go to somebody else's house for lunch, but we
Correct.
definitely had to be back before dark or before the street lights were on.
Correct.
Then they were like, "Where are you?" But before
Yes.
that, they're not looking for us. They don't care.
When I was a kid, that's exactly how it was. And when the street lights came on, if we were not pulling up into the driveway, my mom would send my dad out, and he would do that whistle, the dad whistle. I can't do it, but the whistle that he would do. And if he couldn't see you when he was making that whistle, when you got into the house, oh my God, you were going to be in trouble because there were no DVRs back then. So if he was watching a show, there was no fucking pause. So you interrupted his show for him to come and get you when you knew damn right well that those street lights come on.
You better not interrupt shows either.
Hell no.
For my parents, it was Friends and ER on Thursday nights. Like, we were not allowed to interrupt my mom at that time frame. Like, she didn't care about soap operas during the day, but she was all about like Friends and ER. She was like,
my
"Do not
dad's
interrupt this time."
My dad was Cheers. He loved, and we used to watch it together. It was because it was Thursday night lineup. It was Family Ties, Cosby Show, and Cheers. I know Cheers and Family Ties were on at the same time, or on the same channel. But for my mom loved Dynasty, and don't you dare try to pull some kind of bullshit ass shenanigan during Dynasty. It's the one show she wanted to watch. Dynasty in 2020. That's it.
I really did not like when we got married, and then when we finally, did our own things as adults. I didn't know of a lot of like shows and movies because we just didn't watch that stuff growing up. I mean, a few things here and there, but not. We definitely weren't ingesting TV the way that I do now or my kids did. Like it was completely different because we were busy outside doing shit.
Yep.
We were always outside.
Even Nickelodeon, when Nickelodeon first started, it was a kids show, right? It was a kids channel up until a certain point at night. And around 9:00 at night, then it was Nick at Night. It was old black and whites like the Donna Reed Show, Dennis the Menace.
I Love Lucy was on there. Even I watched Nickelodeon was my stuff growing up. I loved it. And then like in the mornings, they would have like old shows like Three's Company still on from the night before that. So Nick hadn't started yet. Like when I was getting up going to school, and that I would watch like Three's Company or whatever.
The cartoon, we did watch a cartoon before school because my brother always, he would rush, he'd get up at 6 and he'd rush and get all of his stuff done so he could be ready at 6:30, and he'd go in and he'd start Pink Panther. So I can always remember the intro
Dun,
to
dun,
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 dun, dun,
dun,
yeah, that whole
dun,
thing, it's
dun,
always in my
dun.
head.
Oh my God. I
Sorry,
remember
we took a
those
little trip
days.
down
Yeah,
memory
we just
lane
had to
there.
take, we needed a palate cleanser. This trial is too much. But yeah, that was a good,
Well-
those were good times. They really were.
Brian Albert's testimony. I know we're not going to talk about that tonight, but can I just say, like, because that's the one that I've seen the most. Well, I've seen all of, and the rest I'm still catching up on. But oh my God, Almighty, I just cannot get over. I can't get over it. It seems so yes, evasive, like we've said, but also very defensive. And there's just
Yeah.
something off. There's just something off. I don't know.
Big time.
Yeah.
I think the
well,
defense is gonna call him back. I'm trying to like decide which ones are gonna be called back by the defense, and I think Brian Albert for sure is getting a call back.
Mm.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've been on for 2 hours. You guys want to keep going? Are you getting tired? What do you
I'm good
guys
to
want to
finish
do?
up Julie if you want to.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's finish up Julie, and then we'll figure out, we'll talk after this, after I end this, and figure out how we want to do the next part.
Okay.
Sound like a plan? Okay, so now, what is the defense? What is his name? Why can't I remember anybody's freaking names anymore? I used to be really good at that. Yannetti.
Yannetti is the Boston
Okay.
lawyer, and then Alan Jackson is the LA lawyer.
Okay, so I think it's Yannetti that's going to cross-examine Mrs. Alpert here.
I really like him. I can't help it. I think not that I like his personality or like him as a person. It's not that. I just think he does a good job. He's effective.
Same.
I like his lawyering style, and I'm telling
Mhm.
you right now, if I ever get into trouble, let's all hope I don't. Oh, thank you, Neat Noodle. Thank you so much, babe. I appreciate that. If I ever do get into trouble, let's crowdsource to get Jen Unetti. Okay.
For sure. I'll take any
But
of them.
please don't have anybody from, well, not most people. There's a select few, you know who you are, who I would be okay with taking a deep dive to try to help me out, okay, in my case. Everybody else, don't be talking about my shit on YouTube, please. Don't try to investigate. Don't try to help.
Man, if someone ended up with like a lawyer like Lolly, I'd definitely be petitioning for someone different. Like I just feel like even if you were 100, and that's the thing, right? If Karen Reed is guilty of this, because she very well could be, if she is, I think the way he lawyers mixed in with the bad detective work, it's
Yep.
I'll be
Recipe.
shocked if they come back with anything different than
Alright.
a not guilty.
Yeah, it's not
Unless
looking
something
good.
major comes out in the expert testimony.
Yes, all their hopes are probably got to be pinned on the expert testimony, because these regular ass people testimony ain't looking so good. So for
Wait.
Miss, yes, go ahead.
Only because Wonder said, wait, question, who thinks the prosecution will call Proctor? But don't they have to?
Yes, they have to. He was the lead
They
detective.
don't, well,
Yeah.
we found out in pre-trials they don't have to, because that was one of the arguments in the motions in limine is Attorney Little was arguing something, and I can't even remember what she was arguing, but it was had to do with Proctor. And Bev said, well, what if they don't call Proctor? And Little was kind of taken back, and she's like, well, he's the lead detective on the case. And Bev's like, yeah, but what if they don't call him? And she's like, we'll call Proctor. So he's coming on the stand, whether it's through the
Okay.
Commonwealth or through the defense. But I think if the Commonwealth doesn't call him, they're definitely going to be like, it's just going to be a big tell for the jury. If they're not the ones that call him, and it's
Yeah.
the defense
They have
that
to get
calls
ahead
him.
of it. If there's so much like scrutiny on what on Proctor and his what he did, what he didn't do, all the things that if the prosecution does not get ahead of it and control that narrative, it's over
It's
for
over.
them.
I agree. If they don't even attempt it, like they have to
Yeah.
at least attempt it
Yeah, they
to
do.
save face.
They have to. And what I don't understand is, I know that they have other people there representing the Commonwealth. Why don't they do any of the questioning? Lolly, it's okay to pass the ball once in a while.
I've never heard that female. All I've heard her do is make objections, except for one time in pretrial, she did a whole thing, and I can't remember why. I really can't remember why. But other than that, you never hear her speak. But she's there. She introduces herself every
Every
morning.
morning,
But
every
she's
single
not.
morning.
She did one day of objections, and then that was it. That was it.
Wow.
Hmm.
And usually the person who is in charge of the objections is the one who does the questioning. That's the other thing, which is different in this trial. So like, okay, so in the Daybell trial, right? Lindsay Blake, if she's the one that does the direct examination of a witness, when the witness is then cross-examined, she's in charge of doing the objections. But in this case, but then if she was doing the objections, but she's not asked any questions, what's up with
Well,
weird.
she was supposed. That's how Judge Bev laid it out at the beginning of the trial. She said that the person objecting, she said only one person objecting. She didn't want the whole table to be doing the objections, and I interpreted it that way as well. That it needed to be the person who was doing the cross or the direct needed to be the person to object, but we've heard it kind of different, so I'm not for
That's
sure.
so weird to me. I don't even know why that just. I mean, I suppose there are people, Camille Vasquez, who are fantastic objectioners. Lindsay Blake is another one. It's because they're doing the right objection, right? You can tell when it's the right objection when the ratio to sustained versus overruled, it's more to the sustained than it is overruled, right? Lindsay Blake is really good at it, and so is Camille Vasquez, because it's important that you get the objection out timely and that you make a good argument. The Darrell Brooks grounds are correct, but also the timing is important too, because it does sort of mess up any flow that the person who on the other side who's doing the questioning may be getting. It does mess it up. I mean, that's not the only, they object because they need to, but the timing of doing the objections is important too.
So Wanderer knows so much about this case too, because like they've always leave really great comments when I talk about it. So I get what they're saying, that if it's the defense that calls him, they don't get as much leeway because they'll be the ones on direct, so they
Correct.
can't use leading questions like they can on cross. So that might be a strategy that the Commonwealth employs. If they don't call him, it might be because they're not going to have as much room as they would have unless you get more room if you get to treat him as a hostile witness.
Well, it definitely is going to look sus, as the kids say, because my kids, both of them, they call everything sus. They'll get some food they don't like, and they're like, "Oh, that looks sus. That's sus."
I know. I miss those days. I can't. I don't. You know what? I don't hear anymore. I don't hear sus and bruh enough anymore.
Yeah.
That's why I say it all the time, because I miss my kids saying it, bruh. It used to drive me nuts. Like,
Bentley,
first of all, I'm not your bruh.
I've become one at this point. I am.
I've become my kid's bruh. Like, oh my gosh, if you didn't hear my son last
I did.
night.
I was listening last night. It was so cute.
I think I fell asleep. I fell asleep watching. I had to wake up and finish that interview because I was like, oh my God, it's so interested after your live. And it was just so disappointing. Like I did a live.
Finished it. Was it live?
I did a live earlier, but I had to private it because I have to take something out. But I'll put it back up. But it's not even the interview. It is what it is. But you know, all the Chloe stuff and all of that. But the part for me that was so disappointing was the comments under the interview. I mean, they were wild.
Really?
Yeah. They were accusing Chris of like SA and all kinds of other stuff. I mean, it was just horrible. They're
It's
like,
bad.
we
It is
know it was
sad.
them. It was, yeah.
It's
It's so
bad.
sad, Bendy. I, I don't even know how to think about that case anymore. It's hard to follow the things. It's hard to debunk the things. It's hard to even stay on top of it. It is so much. And I don't know. It just feels different than anything else. It's like it's taken on a life of its own
And if you
Yeah.
talk,
online.
and if you talk about it, there's no right way to talk about that case.
No, there's not.
Because even if you give both sides, which there shouldn't be sides, there
No,
really
No.
shouldn't be. So I'm not going to use that word anymore. If you give, which I have given all the parents grace,
Mm-hmm.
hmm
but you say something like I said last night, which was that I do think, is it possible? Because there's a lot of kerfuffle about what Chris Proudfoot said in that recorded phone call to Heather
Mm-hmm.
about the dog handler. And I simply said, is it, because what they're saying is he lied.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a difference between misstating, misspeaking, and lying. Lying is
Right.
intentional. Lying is, if I were to say right now that no, Dietz is not on my panel, well, that is a blatant
That's a
ass lie.
bold-faced
She's
lie.
clearly on my fucking panel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But if you're trying to repeat, and this is the other thing, he was trying to convey what the dog handler had told him. He wasn't
Mm-hmm.
on the stand, he's not under oath. So is it possible that what he took, he might have heard it wrong?
Could have been.
Maybe that's the way he heard it, and that's the way he then relayed it, right?
Yeah.
Just like, is it possible for Seth, when Seth was asked about the CPS reports
Mm-hmm.
way early on and whether he had been notified or not, is it possible, because there's so much going on in their brains, the forefront of their brain is
That
what's
he
happening
forgot.
to
Yeah.
Sebastian right now. And they're asked a question, is it possible that when he answered the question and he said no, maybe he misspoke? Maybe the way that he interpreted the question, the right answer is no. But upon further review and really focusing and recollecting, he realizes, okay, I did get sent something.
Yeah,
Does that make him,
it's
you know?
completely possible. I agree with that.
Who knows? None of us were there. And if you were there, don't be talking to the YouTubes. You need to take your ass to law enforcement and tell them what happened if you were there, if you know so much.
Yeah. Well, that's my thing with these recorded calls and stuff coming out. It's like, if you feel like this call is going to help in the investigation, don't put it on YouTube. It doesn't belong there. It belongs with law enforcement. And if you don't feel it's going to help, then why are you, I don't know. I just don't see the point in putting it on YouTube. I don't like it at all.
I don't either. For me, the only point of putting some of those things on YouTube that end up on YouTube is to make the other party look like they are either complicit in something or just to make them look bad. Because
Right.
it's
Yeah.
not to help the case at all. Like you said, it would go
No.
straight to law enforcement if it was something of evidentiary value.
Yeah. And
But
for
I-
views.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I will say that I don't have, listen, the side that I'm on is Sebastian's side. I care about where that, I would ideally, I would like for Sebastian to come home and be
Mhm.
safe, be found safe. Okay.
Mm.
The longer he's gone, the likelihood of that goes down, but I still continue to have hope because it does happen. It has happened many times before.
Yeah.
So, but me giving grace to one parent at one point in time does not mean that I only give that parent grace. I've
No.
given all of the parents grace because, quite frankly, I think that's what we should be doing
'Cause we
at
don't
this
know.
point. We don't know.
And we could just imagine, or at least I can imagine myself in that position, and I would want to be given grace too. But that doesn't make me above reproach in the other crap that I've
Correct.
said. So I think that, putting stuff out there. It's open for commentary, and I get that. I just don't think we should be crucifying them.
Correct. Or saying that you know that so and so did such and such for sure. Because if you know that kind of information, like I said, you need to be speaking to law enforcement, not in the comment section of YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, an opinion is one thing, but just outright accusing them and so certainly, it's bizarre. And I don't know, it's just spinning out of control. It's not true crime at all. It's just drama around a missing child. We don't even know if there was a crime. That's the truth about it.
Exactly.
So,
Well, and that's why I could never, to bring it back to Karen Reed stuff, that's why I could never get into the Turtle Boy stuff. I had started, when I had found him, it was because I had found his blog when I was searching, because it was before it blew up on social media, and I was searching for articles. I like to go back to the local articles around when, the time it happened, and I stumbled across his, not even realizing it was a, YouTuber or anything like that. And the facts that he put in the blog and in the very beginning, like the first couple articles, I'm like, "Oh, this is good." But then I found out who he was and what he was doing. And you're right, Allie, it's not even opinions. He was making flat out accusations, flat out calling multiple people murderers. And it's like, that's not an opinion when you're stating it as a fact. And so then I'm like, that's someone I don't want to, listen to too much on their theory on the case or anything, because
yeah,
it's
You have
just
to
not
be
fair to do
careful.
that to
It's
people.
it's not responsible. And I learned a long time ago from the West Memphis Street. The question that I get asked more than anything else is, do I think so and so did it? It's a specific person. And the truth of the matter is, I don't know. Do I find some of the more recent findings interesting? Yes, but it's not enough to convict anybody. Okay, so I would not go around and point the finger at anybody. And the reason I won't do it is because I do feel that there was a lot of that done to Jason, Jesse, and Damien in the beginning. How that's kind of how all of this got started, was a lot of rumors. And I'm not saying that it was all rumors. Damien said some things that did not serve him. He was a smart ass, and he'll tell you that. But at any rate, what I can't, if I say, well, these guys were just falsely accused, and yet I'm running around here based on a couple of recent findings, recent results, right? Test results, and I'm pointing the finger at somebody, I'm no better. So I try to, not point the finger, and we don't know what happened. Is Sebastian's case perplexing? Absolutely. Where did he go? What happened? We all want to know the answers to that, but we are not going to find it by blaming anybody in this situation, because we don't know. But this is what I'm going to say. I'm not going to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't do on their channel, but I won't be doing it over here. Nor will I be watching and participating. All right. Now, should we get back to Julie?
Let's do it.
All right. Now, what you're going to hear about Julie here. Julie does not want anybody to know that she is buds with
Trooper Proctor's sister.
Yeah. What is her name, though? Let me look it up. Courtney Proctor. Okay.
She besties with him. For sure, with Courtney Proctor.
Babysat her kids.
She babysat her kids. So they come out with this time frame, I can't even remember what it was. I think it was, is it 7 to 10 months? Anyway, this time frame. And they ask her, did you talk to her on the phone? And she's like, rarely. And, he's like, what, did you say rarely? Like, he stutters. Yes. He's like, wait, did you say rarely? And I love his accent when he says that, because you could tell he wasn't expecting that from her, given what he knew. And so he's like, wait, what? And so then he pulls it out, full bam, slaps it on the table. You spoke 67 times on the phone.
And then here's her response.
I don't recall speaking to her 67. I'm seeing it on the paper. I see what you wrote. I see it. But I don't remember what we talked about.
Even though one of those days was 3 times, which happened to be the day of Karen Reed's arrest. And then the next time was at her arraignment.
They spoke like 3 times both those days.
Mm-hmm.
Around the time, like right prior to her arraignment and then right after her arraignment.
Right.
And
I
she's
mean,
out. I mean, it's possible we talked about the
it's
case. I don't
possible.
know. I'm telling you, I don't remember.
You know what else I found super ironic about her testimony about these phone calls is right before he flops down the number,
Yes.
she said rarely, and then she said we text more. And then it kind of gets directed towards the phone calls. And I'm like,
Yes.
oh yeah, you guys are besties. If you're texting more than that, than those phone calls in that time frame, you're communicating a lot. Like I don't even think I've called my bestie 67 times in that amount of time. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
a huge amount
That's
of
a lot.
conversing back and forth.
That's a lot. And then it took forever. It took like 7 years of asking the question, and then I don't recall. And then he would ask her another question, and then he would revisit the original question asked in a slightly different way for her finally to be like, yeah, we probably talked about the case.
Probably.
Probably.
I love your Boston accent with a little rough to it. Like you're doing great. But it was shocking. I mean, it shouldn't be shocking, but it was a little bit like, yeah, they're talking. And I can't remember if it got out the text message she sent her about Trooper Proctor. Was that put in the
I
testimony?
can't remember, to be
Okay.
honest with you, because I didn't make a note of it because
was
I
a
was
big
like, oh,
deal.
hell no. I have to listen to this cross-examination. So what I decided was no more note taking. I took notes only during the direct. And I was like, we'll just play the cross-examination because it's that so much.
Okay. All right. I'll shut up so you can play it. It's good.
Oh, look at this, you guys. Dietz and Jenlu need to go live together more often. They're together. We'll see.
Crazy. Allie's the one who keeps us grounded, right? She's like, hey, can you guys rein it back in to play it?
No, because then Allie will say something to get me to laugh and just to hear me laugh.
Which, because I love when she laughs, that makes me laugh. But no, I'm just being a little quiet over here because I just walked in my house and I'm like, usually I walk in and it smells like candles and wax melts. Today I walk in and it smells like, oh, what is that? And I'm looking around and I look at the dog and, of course he had to use the bathroom all over his bed. I know. So I've been cleaning that up while I'm listening to you guys.
Oh, no.
I caught that the other day. My dog has not had an accident in a very long time, and I came home, same thing, but it was faint, and I'm like, where something is wrong? Like, what is this coming from? Well, he had went down to the basement in the very back corner and decided to relieve himself down there, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I hate that.
I will say that even though Nestor he'll be 16 at the end of this year, in December. The only time he's never had an accident, and he's kind of started to, I think he's getting a little bit of paralysis in the back, and I don't think he can feel it. So a couple of times, like he's literally been asleep and it's happened. Like he's had a little poop. But it's not, but the rest of the time, like that's why when I say I got to let him out, because it's only at night that it's a real big deal. He does not want to go out in the backyard by himself. He wants me to stand out there with him because
he just wants company while
yes.
he goes
Did you guys know that when a dog is going, especially number 2, they don't do it number 1, but when they go number 2, you know why they turn around and look at you?
Why?
Because they're very vulnerable and you're there in their pack and they want to make sure you got their 6.
That
The
makes
same
sense.
reason why cats come in the bathroom with you. And animals are all vulnerable when they're going potty, and to them, you are simply nothing more than another animal. For cats, you're just a weird ass cat that ain't got no fur and has decided to grow thumbs and can do shit they can't do. But you're still a cat. So you're obviously vulnerable when your pants are down around your ankles. That's why they come in there with you. But dogs turn around and look at you because they want to see if you're watching out.
That makes so much sense now, but I have wondered that because I'm like, "Why is he looking at us like that?" Like, that I hate that. I don't know, it makes me
Yeah.
uncomfortable, but I'm like, "All right, buddy, you're going, do your
Yeah.
thing."
They
But
want to
that
make
makes
sure.
sense.
Hey, say, Bob, you paid attention. I mean, there could be bedded hats and beards coming around the corner at any time, and I'm pooping. Could you just watch my six?
Yeah, pretty much.
Because you know how dogs feel about men in hats and beards. They don't like them.
So Teacup said cats will pry the door
Well,
open to get into the bathroom with you. Is that because
Yes.
they wanna protect you?
Yes. Yes. Mac and Alice, let me tell you something. I've been a mom since 1995. I have not gone to the bathroom by myself since 1995. It used to
Same,
be
girl.
kids, and now it's Alice and Mac. Mac does it more frequently than Alice does. That is his job. He is the one that goes in and watch it, but he only does it to me. He won't try to go in there with my husband, just to me. Clearly, I require a substantial amount of
Consistent.
supervision
Yeah, I'm like,
because
"Really, Coda? I think I've got this on my own." He's just staring at me like, what you doing in there?" Like, "I've got this. I've been doing it a while. I can
yeah.
handle it."
But my animals know. No, they look at me like, no, Mom, have you met you? You do
Have you
need
met me?
supervision. We see you. You
hey,
need
listen,
supervision.
Bendy.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Then, as I was telling you about the dogs, Bentley ran in here and threw up everywhere, all over the bathroom, all over the toilet. So I'm gonna jump down and take care of him and listen to you guys finish Julie.
All right,
I
babe.
know.
Tell
And now he's
Bentley,
sitting up on the
tell him
couch.
I
I
hope
gave
he
him some
feels
Sprite back
better.
there.
Poor
Bentley,
guy.
boo. Tell him I
I know
hope
when
he
he
feels
didn't make it
better.
to the toilet.
Oh, God love
Okay, I'll
him.
tell him, and I'm gonna go clean this up, and then I'll be listening. I'll be back once I get done, but in the
We're
chat.
thinking
But
of you.
Love you, babe.
okay, I love you, and thank you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. I'll be back in the chat when I'm done. Okay, bye.
All right, babe. Bye. Oh, poor
Man, I am glad I
Bentley.
am not in her position
Me
right now.
too.
That's
Those
the
days are
worst.
long behind me.
Yeah, that is the
Well,
worst, though, when your kiddo's
mm-hmm.
sick and you can't do
Yes.
anything about it.
Nope. Poor Bentley. All right. Well, I'm going to play this cross-examination, and I'm going to go have a cigarette. I feel like I've earned one. I've been live now for 2 hours and 30 minutes. I
I
deserve
seem
a
to have this
cigarette.
effect on channels, sorry.
What?
Turn other channels into long lives.
No, you don't. No, I actually like to be live a long time, but this is why I wanted to start earlier. If you really want to catch Allie at like peak joke turn time, it's about 7:30. If we start a live around 7 or 7:30, Allie will be the one cracking the jokes and, getting all turned and stuff. That's her peak time. That's why we try to that's when we do Letitia, because she takes so long, because she's fucking crazy and says the most outlandish shit. She does.
She does, for
She
sure.
does. And like, no shame about it. She just will lie and be like, yeah, I said what I said, and I stand by exactly what I said.
There you go. That's a perfect example of a lie versus like misunderstanding, misinterpreting, or hearing it wrong. That chick she just flat out lies to lie for her own pleasure.
Yes. Just to see, I think sometimes if people will buy it. Really, some of it I think is a test. Some of it is, I do think Letitia is that person. We all have one of them in our life who you just you take the avoidance path, because dealing with them it's not worth it. It gets you nowhere, and all it does is frustrate you. So even when obviously we're not talking about on a scale of murdering a child. That's very different. That I would be confrontational about. But everyday shit, and that's what she's used to. So she nobody ever stands up to her because nobody wants to put up with it. It's not worth it. So there you go. All right. Now for reals, I'm pushing play on this. No, I saw Nunya turn it normalize 1 hour. Deets 3 to 6 hours. Yeah, but Deets has,
what are you trying to say, Nunya? Dang, I feel so attacked.
Don't do that in my chat. You know what it is with Deets? Deets asks really thought-provoking, deep questions. And so they require, which I personally like, They require, as my little mini Bendy refers to them, Miss America answers. They're not simple questions, and therefore the answer is not simple. And then Dietz is a deep thinker, and she asks good questions, and that's what I appreciate about you, Dietz. One of the things.
Thanks, Cindy.
I like the questions that you ask, and I think you're very fair. And I think you have patience, because I'm telling you, a couple of those panels, Dietz, I would have been like,
crazy.
I would have had to have a gavel. I would have been like,
it takes a lot to get me to that space, but it does happen from time to time. We've seen that. It does happen, but
yeah, but even when you get to that point, you're not even like, it's still you, and you still are nice about it. If it's me, I sound like the lady from Pee-wee's Playhouse. Tell him Marge sent you. Like, when I get mad, that's it. It's coming from my soul.
Well, I'm just going to say, Nunya has no room to talk, because I do have lots of questions. But that girl, Nunya, she has the questions.
That is true,
she has
Nunya.
them over and over and over.
That is true. What I like about Nunya is when she gets on a panel and asks questions, they're thought-provoking and deep. But she also adds a little twist in there where she will ask 3 or 4 different scenario follow-up questions based on the answer given to the original question. Well, let me ask you about this. If it was A, B, C, and D, do you think X, Y, and Z? That's what I like about Nunya. She'd be asking them thought-provoking scenario-ask questions.
She does. Just like one of those choose your own adventure books, or I don't know what where you have the 2 questions at the bottom and it could lead you this way or that way.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we never know where we're going.
Exactly. All right, I'm pushing play because I really do need a cigarette, or I will snap. All right, here we go.
Good afternoon.
You and I have never met, correct?
Correct.
I just want to pick up on a question and an answer that Mr. Lally asked you and that you responded to. He had just asked you whether or not a few days later you spoke with a couple of state troopers. Do you recall that question?
Yes.
And your answer was yes?
Yes.
You would agree with me that it was more than just a few days later, correct?
I don't
It was February 10th of 2022 that 2 state troopers came to speak with you and your husband, Chris, correct?
Correct.
And so we're talking about 13 days later, almost 2 weeks later, correct?
If that was the date, yes, correct.
Prior to February 10th, no investigator from this case bothered to talk to you or your husband, correct?
Correct.
Now, in terms of the 2 investigators who did come, you knew one of them quite well, did you not?
I knew them. I wouldn't say quite well, but I knew them.
Okay, and when you say you knew them?
Him. I'm sorry, him.
Okay. And who was it that you knew?
Michael Proctor.
Michael Proctor was the brother of one of your close friends, correct?
Correct.
You're close friends with Courtney Proctor, correct?
I am.
And by the way, your maiden name is Daniels, correct?
Yes, it is.
And you have a sister, Jill Daniels, correct?
Yes, I do.
And you would agree that Jill Daniels is also lifelong best friends with Courtney Proctor, correct?
Yes, she is.
And in terms of your relationship with Courtney Proctor, you socialized with her, do you not?
Objection.
Do you? Occasionally, yes.
Go out for drinks with her, correct?
Yes.
You've attended parties with her, correct?
Yes.
You've also provided childcare for her children, correct?
Yes.
Objection. Move to strike.
All right, I'll see you on sidebar on this, Mr. Bay. Everybody.
Not the sidebar already. Jeez. Yeah, it's interesting that he's trying to object to these right here because it's gonna come out. So a constant squeaky chair today and straw slurping sound about took me out during today's test. Gosh, it was bad. It was really bad. Oh, Missy, I would like to be more like nonsense. She said, I feel like she says all the things that we're all thinking, but she does it so well. Of course, there's a sidebar when you're trying to have a singing. I figured you were still out there. Then they have pictures of them in the same person occasionally. She's Uh, we learned today that it's when Lally is about to do an objection, you'll hear his mic, like he's hitting it, and that's what they're picking up on is that sound. But we're about to find out just how close they were, and it's pretty freaking close. I don't know why anyone tried to hide this. The amount of text messages, phone calls, all the things. People were going hard on her dad the other day just for the simple way he looks, and I mean her parents aren't young guns, so I could imagine this is taking a toll on them. I know no matter what age, if my daughter was accused of murder and I knew her to be innocent, or no matter what I felt, I'd be there for her and have her back. So it's gotta wear thin on them. I don't know if he's doing it on accident or purpose, Becky.
It's so jarring when he does it, though. It's so noticeable. It's ugh, it's too much.
Yeah.
I spent the majority of my cigarette staring up at this corner here. You can't see it, so it's right above my head. Because it looks like there's a person sitting there, and I was like, did I add somebody to the panel and don't know it? It's the damn background, Jen. Come on, get your life right.
Oh no!
They've thrown this whole place has thrown me off.
Oh, Allie, she said she's done.
Oh,
bless your
good.
heart.
Bless your heart, babe. And we mean that
He
in
feels good.
the genuine bless your heart.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, Mo. Yes, that would be Nicole Albert, who gets on the stand and adjusts the mic. And then you can tell, especially in the beginning, they're always super nervous. So everybody's breathing is a little harder in the beginning, but the mic was so close. And every time she would speak after she was done, then you would hear the, oh my God. I was like, come on.
So, Missy talked about like Karen has haters because of her facial expressions or the outfit she's wearing, which I get it. Honestly, I watched a show once that talked heavily about people being treated or even sentenced differently based on their looks, based on the color of their skin, all those things. But I wanted to add this real quick. I found a account on Twitter that talks about trial fashion, and I was like, let me follow that because I'm here for it. It was
yes.
I thought that was neat.
I would listen. Let me tell you what's going on with poor Karen Reed. Okay, as far as that goes, that's where I do feel a little bit for her. Okay, she's clearly had some Botox done. Okay,
Yeah.
so it is what it is. She also, and I know this because I suffer from this myself. Resting bitch face. She
does.
and she has a very intense look about her. And I don't think that she's actually like mean mugging intentionally, but I do think that that's just her face. I think, and I don't, I think that Karen dresses very, very sharply. I actually like her outfits. I will say I do have some questions about the hair because it almost looks like she's trying to do an ombre, but that went out like how long ago? So I'm not actually,
10 years.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's not a judgment. It's just some questions. That's all I have.
It's just an observation.
It's an observation. But then I think about it and I'm like, well, listen, this defense team has probably cost her any savings that she had and then some. So it's not like she can be running to the hairdresser.
Oh, I heard, well, it was either Runkle or Lawyer one of them was stating that this defense is probably costing her close to $500,000.
Oh my God. And that's interesting because that's another subject that I do want to talk about at some point about the difference between private paid for attorneys and public defenders, and can you actually pay for justice? I'm curious about that.
Okay, and Kathy, you nailed it there. She said that she also has MS and Crohn's, so she's probably in a
Oh,
lot
I
of
forgot about
pain.
that too.
And I have like chronic back pain, so I get it. Sometimes I can't hide that on my face. Like it is, sometimes it gets so intense and nothing's, touching it at the moment. And I can't hide that. I'm gonna look like a bitch in those moments no matter what, because that pain is like all you can think about sometimes.
It's
So,
true. That is true. And I had forgotten that she does suffer from that. So she probably is in pain. And
especially sitting there all day. Ooh.
yes, yes. And then, like they only get an hour for lunch, so I'm sure there's not a lot, it's probably a lot.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, Nicole, good to see you, love. I can't imagine. Yeah, the sitting there, that's what I'm thinking is I bet that's really hard on her.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, you guys have heard me adjust in this chair. I have back pain too, like you do, Deets, all the time. It never goes away.
No.
And I have to, move around in the chair. And unfortunately, I'm wearing shorts. It's hot and the chair is leather. It does cause sticking. It happens.
That's why I'm always turning my camera off because it's normally I'll turn it off so I can like stand up, stretch, do like lunges and like bendies. Not bendies like you mean, but like I
I
call
know
them
what you
bend.
meant.
I call them bendies. That's what I call them because like I have to bend over and then like slowly go up like a cat and then back down. And so that's what I'm typically doing when I turn the camera off because it does take a toll on you to stay in one position for too long. So I can't imagine. I
And
bet
I'm
she's
wondering also for Karen, because one of the instructions the judge gave was to watch body language.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I wonder if Karen's going to testify, but I wonder
I
if the
don't think she
jury
will.
is aware that she has MS and Crohn's.
Well, they brought up MS the other day. I can't remember
Okay.
if they brought up Crohn's, but I do know that they discussed her having MS,
Okay,
the
good.
EMTs finding it out. So,
Okay, good. Because I think that if the judge is going to instruct the jury to pay attention to body language, that would include the defendant. And I don't want her to be unfairly judged for something that she cannot actually control.
yeah.
Being in pain is not something that you can actually control. And if she came to court, all, taking a bunch of pain medications, people would have something to say about that too. She'd be judged for that too.
Oh, for
So,
sure.
all right, here we go. They're done with their sidebar. Oh, MJ's in the shower, y'all.
So, Ms. Albert, you provided childcare for Courtney Buckler's children.
Objection.
Need a time frame, Mr. Chairman.
Have you ever provided childcare for Courtney
Too
Buckler's
broad.
children?
Objection.
So you need a time frame.
Before January of 2022, did you provide childcare for Courtney Buckler's children?
Yes.
When?
2019.
Just that 1 year?
Yeah, it was pre-COVID. And then when COVID happened and everything shut down, I wasn't helping her any longer.
Okay.
And then occasionally after, I would help just on an as needed basis after COVID.
And during that year of 2019, how often did you watch her children?
Thank you, MJ.
2 days a week.
And she had a boy and a girl?
Correct.
What were their names?
Jack and Caroline.
And Jack and Caroline were Trooper Proctor's niece and nephew, correct?
Yes.
The Proctor family entrusted you with the care of their children, correct?
Objection.
It sustained his ass.
You know that Michael Proctor is a state trooper, correct?
Yes.
You knew that he also was from Canton?
Yes.
You knew his wife, Elizabeth Proctor?
Yes.
And you were also aware that Courtney Proctor had recommended you to also watch Michael Proctor and Elizabeth Proctor's children, correct?
Objection. Move to strike.
That objection sustained.
But you go back a long way with Courtney Proctor, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you were certainly at her wedding, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Your son was a ring bearer at that wedding.
Objection.
All right, so we'll sustain that through this witness.
You've spent time at Michael Proctor's childhood home, have you not?
Yes.
You've been to the pool at the Proctor's house, correct?
Yes.
Did you
Did
guys
catch
hear that?
Hot
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Can I have the pool photo? I know she's lying.
Yes. Yes. I was hoping that you were going to catch that too, because I remember listening to it this afternoon and I was like, oh, I can't wait to talk about this with Dietz and Allie. Yeah.
Oh,
Hot Mike, hot Mike.
and they've caught her. I don't know if she could hear that though, but and they do. They catch her in the lies.
See, I think I'm curious about that, and I don't think that she can hear it. I think that the mic and the sound are amplified. The mic is the mic, but I think the sound is amplified by the streaming. So I think she could probably maybe hear a whisper, but as far as what they actually said, I'm not sure about that.
But I think if I remember correctly, was he talking to Lolly or Jackson when he said that? I felt like he was talking to Lolly, so that's interesting.
Interesting.
I think they pan a little bit and it looked like he came from there.
All right.
But it might have been a different time. There was another hot mic moment.
Yeah.
It's not as exciting. So that might have been the time he was next to Lolly.
Yeah, that might have been it.
May we approach?
So now we're approaching.
Oh yeah, it must have
Here
been.
comes everybody. Look how cramped it is in that courtroom. See, that would be a deal breaker for me. I wouldn't be able to handle it.
Well, they're there because
I know.
in the bigger one, yeah, all the jurors couldn't see the witnesses.
Now, I also want to say this, that in some parts of the Northeast, or New England, including Massachusetts, now it used to be that you were required to stand. And I cannot remember what trial it was that it was held in Massachusetts. This was a long time ago, like when Court TV first got started. And I remember watching it, and all of the witnesses who testified were standing when they gave their testimony. Now she gives them an option. She was saying that to every witness. She's not saying that anymore.
Stand, which makes sense as to why the witness box is so little.
Yep. Because you used to have to stand.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a little fun fact.
How many times have you been to the Proctor's pool?
11 billion.
Say maybe a dozen.
And you've certainly taken your children there as well?
Yes.
Colin has been to the Proctor's pool?
Yes.
Well,
and you've seen Michael Proctor's mother and father at that pool, correct?
Yes.
You've seen Courtney Proctor and her husband at that pool, correct?
Yes.
You are very close with Courtney Proctor, correct?
How would you define very?
Well, I guess
oh my God.
Very close.
This
Do you deny that you were very close?
Stop right here. Julie, are you Bill Clinton? Are you arguing what the meaning of is? Sorry,
she's already said they're very close. They're good friends. Like, why are we arguing it now? You've already stated that you were close friends with her.
Why don't you want to claim Courtney? Courtney, if you're listening, I would really reconsider my friendship with Miss Julie over here.
Friend. I'm just saying, Courtney.
She ain't trying to claim your ass, ma'am. I mean, look at it.
I wouldn't throw you under the bus like that.
I wouldn't either. I mean, especially if I'd have said I'd been at your pool and I met your whole damn ass family at that same pool. And now I'm saying very close. Listen, I don't go swimming with people I'm not very close to at their private family pools. This wasn't swimming at the Y.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, Kathy, this is the same courtroom where they were tried.
Oh, yeah. All right, here we go. Let's hear some more about define vary. Don't you mean, what do you mean define vary? Again, are you arguing what the definition of is, Bill Clinton? Stop it.
Objection, Your Honor.
No, go ahead. Next question. You got your answer.
Oh?
I didn't hear the answer.
Go ahead, repeat that.
Do you deny that you were very close with Courtney Proctor?
No.
Okay. You talk regularly, correct?
Yes.
You text each other, correct?
Yes.
You also talk by phone?
Very rarely.
Define talk by phone.
Is it fair to, did you say very rarely?
Usually it's text.
But do you stand by that testimony that you talk to Courtney Proctor very rarely by phone?
Do we have a time frame? Do you mean now or do you mean then?
What?
Let me ask you
Look at
this.
her just interjecting without
Yes.
even
Between
Judge
February
Beth.
1st of 2022 and September 6th of 2022, did you only speak rarely with Courtney Proctor?
I don't recall.
Here comes the I don't recall.
Were you
And here we
using
go. Everybody
Courtney
drink every
Proctor
time she says
as
she
an
doesn't
intermediary
recall.
to communicate with Michael Proctor about this case?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No, I was not.
Are you aware that between February 1st of 2022 and September 6th of 2022, you and Courtney Proctor spoke by phone 67 times?
Objection.
Were you aware of that?
No, I don't know the exact count.
Do you deny that you spoke 67 times?
I don't deny it, but I don't recall the exact amount of times.
Okay, so you don't
There's a little
deny that you
quiver in
spoke
her voice
67
there.
times.
Yeah.
You still want to maintain your testimony that you only talked very rarely with Courtney Proctor during that time period.
I just don't remember the exact amount of times.
Well, you know that my client, Karen Reed,
Okay, listen, Julie,
Mm-mm.
defense attorney, listen, the better thing would have been to, you're doing a good job, but the better question would have been to say, is 67 times rare to you? Does that sound rare?
Right.
You know, would you, if you were told that you communicated with somebody 67 times over a 7-month period, would you consider that rare? Rare is like a booty call text. That's rare.
Well, there's a
Okay.
lot of those going on in this case
To
too.
different
Or booty
people, though.
calls.
Booty making calls. But listen, when
Booty
a
answers.
genuine actual call for booty, okay,
Mhm.
that person you would probably text rarely.
Rarely.
Okay,
Mhm.
not 67 motherfucking times.
Well,
you
I wish they
know?
would have told us how many times they text. He's just telling us
Yes,
the phone
calls.
calls.
You're
Now I
right.
want to know, like, how many texts took place in that time frame.
Correct.
Because she said that
Correct.
they usually text, but okay.
Well, I'm curious now. This has me wondering. Were they in I'm curious about the order of, like, was there a flow of conversation through text that then resulted in phone calls? Because sometimes, as everybody knows, you don't want to leave a paper trail.
Mhm.
And so it's much easier for there to be a call and you can be like, no, I don't, this was 2 years ago. I don't know what I said during that call. The only thing that I know I said is hello. How are you? I said
Right.
those two things for sure.
Well, and sometimes you get tired of texting too, and I don't necessarily prefer a phone call, but I'll leave like voice memos back and forth. Like
Yes.
I prefer to do that because then I can just speak it quicker than type
Right.
it all out.
Right. It's easier to leave a voice memo than it is to type out, a fucking term paper
Paragraph. Yeah.
in the chats. But then there are the occasions when you don't want a record of what you
That's
discussed.
true.
And that is when you
Yeah.
make a phone call.
That
So
is
you need
twice
to
a week,
stop.
Allie. You're right. Twice a
Yep,
week.
twice a week.
that's
Allie's done the
frequent.
math. Plus 11 times.
Mm.
So sometimes more than twice a week.
Yeah, Missy, you're right. Nobody's friends and no one calls that they recall. They can never recall any of their phone calls. None of these.
Correct.
Mhm.
I,
It was 2
I
years ago. I don't
there
remember.
there should be a study done in this cross section of this public in Canton because there's a lot of memory lapses here, and that is disconcerting. And I think that it might be a public health issue. I'm just saying
Well,
something ain't right.
I'm starting to wonder if it's kind of like my house when my kids were little. We had somebody else that lived here,
Nobody.
nobody and somebody else. Like they were here
Correct.
all the time. And I
Correct.
don't know. We never did find them. They must have like lived in the dryer or the vents or something. But they were
Probably.
here all the time. I think I don't recall is an extra member of the Albert family, and we just haven't met them yet.
They're just not named. They're not on the tree, as it were.
They're hiding in the vents.
Correct. You know how you know for a damn fact that you put pairs of socks in the dryer, but there's always that one that ain't got no pair, no
Yeah.
match. That's where
where-
none and I don't recall live. They
Mhm.
take the socks and they build little towns out of them. Apparently, I don't know.
Something.
Because none of these fools remember nothing. All right, let's
I'm
see
with
what
you,
we
arrested in
don't
connection with
remember.
This case on February 1st of 2022, do you not?
I do.
You spoke to Courtney Proctor that date for 12 minutes by phone, correct?
I don't recall exactly. I don't remember exactly.
That's the one I couldn't get.
Yeah, I don't know what he said.
May I approach?
Sure.
Before I approach,
Mhm.
your memory's exhausted as to whether you spoke to Courtney Proctor that day, and if so, how long the two of you spoke?
Yes.
Yes, I've said I don't recall a sufficient amount of times that my memory is exhausted and everybody who's watching has exhausted their patience. It was my
Yes,
lack
it
of
is.
remembering.
Up there whispering with Wally.
I mean, I'm showing you a document with a number of,
Just show it to us.
right, no, I just wanted to point out which one that I'm pointing out. So the third, I was missing a number of lines. The third line down,
Yeah, Bev,
if
calm
you
your
would take a look
balls.
at
But
that
did you
specific
see
date
her though?
time,
She's like,
Yes.
oh,
your
okay.
memory about whether and how long you spoke to Courtney Proctor on February 1st, 2022.
Can you see that or do you need glasses?
No, I can see it.
I do have a pair of readers that I need as well, if you need to borrow them.
Yes, if I could.
Of course.
Thank you. I left mine downstairs.
I just got these and it's like. the
Mr.
middle.
Yannetti, just bring them up, please.
It took me a while to figure them out, but anyway.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Bev, you got glasses right there. Why you don't offer to help?
Yeah, because you're putting yourself in this case every which way. Like,
Right. Why
bring them
couldn't
up? All right.
you might
It's
as
the
well
third-
just
yeah,
let
third
you
line
do
down.
glasses.
Yes, I see it. I don't recall. It's
Okay.
a long time ago. Thank you.
And you say that having seen this record, it does not refresh your memory that you spoke to Courtney Proctor for.
Don't. It does not refresh your memory. That's where you have to do it.
Oh,
Don't do it.
Did Courtney Proctor tell you the day of Mike?
That what she just said, I don't know how legal that is. Don't do it. Leave it where it
Yeah.
is. Because, okay, we've seen these types of exchanges go on in other trials. Specifically, the one that I recall off the top of my head is the one that I'm watching constantly too, Daybell. So the correct objection at this point would be objection, asked and answered. And usually the judge will rule. And that's when that objection continues to come up and continues to be sustained, then the judge will usually say, let's move on. Not Judge Bev. No.
she's like, don't do it.
Don't do it. Just shush right now. Just stop it now.
Mm-hmm.
For the rest of the time the witness is on the stand, just cut it out.
Client's arrest on February 1st, that she had been discussing the case with her brother that day.
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you?
Hold on a second. Amethyst Wolf, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Amethyst.
That was very generous. Thank you so much. Congratulations to whoever got them. Please be sure to thank Amethyst Wolf and after this, I'll play the membership video. All right, here we go.
Speak to Courtney Proctor that day in any fashion.
Who?
What day exactly?
Oh my fuck.
Client's arrest on February 1st, 2022.
That was on the sheet you just gave me?
It was.
Well, I did, obviously, if it was on that sheet.
Okay. And when you talked to her, did she tell you that she had discussed the case with her brother?
Objection.
Were you notified
That's
that
not
Karen was going to
hearsay.
be arrested?
Objection.
No.
What did you discuss?
That's hearsay.
I don't recall.
I don't. She
Um,
ain't
the
gonna
next
remember
day-
anyway.
Right.
2nd of 2022 was the day that my client was arraigned back in Stoughton District Court. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
Oh, I
You
recall
spoke to
that.
Courtney Proctor
Yeah.
3 times that day before my client's publicly televised arraignment at 9 a.m. Did you
Who?
not?
Who's your
Again, I don't
client?
remember.
After the arraignment, you spoke to her again for 27 minutes, beginning at 10 a.m. Did you not?
Damn.
I don't recall.
Oh, I don't.
So your testimony is, well, strike that. My client's arrest was pretty big news in Massachusetts. You were aware that my client had been arrested, correct?
Yes, I had seen it on the news.
You were aware that she was being arraigned the very next day, were you not?
Yes.
This case involved your family, did it not?
Involved? What's involved?
How do you mean it?
Well,
Huh? What?
you knew that John O'Keefe
As
was found
witnesses?
dead on
What?
your brother-in-law, Brian Albert's lawn, correct?
Oh,
Correct.
yes.
So
Now-
necessarily, your family was involved in this
well,
case,
kind of,
correct?
yeah, but
Somewhat,
not like
yes.
that.
And you knew that ultimately you'd probably be talked to by investigators from this case, correct?
I assume so, yes.
It didn't happen for 13 days, but ultimately they did come, correct?
Yes.
So this case had to have been pretty big news within the Albert family, was it not?
Well, yes. Yes.
You were discussing it with your husband, correct?
Yes.
You were discussing it with your other relatives, correct?
Yes.
You were discussing it with your friends, correct?
I don't know about my friends, but
Oh,
So is it your
really? I'm
testimony
gonna talk
that with all
I'm
this
gonna talk
going
about
on,
it with everybody else, but not my friends.
Hell,
No.
that's the word well, Courtney, but she's not really my friend. I mean,
Really, we've already
you're
established
okay.
Courtney and her are not tight, not her friend, so that doesn't count, right?
Correct. Objection. I mean, I mean, I talked about it with everybody but my friends. What the fuck kind of sense does that make?
You kidding me? I don't know about you, but I talk more about this stuff with my friends than my family. Like, that's who I would be talking about it with is my friends over my family.
Yes. Listen, just from are witnesses under oath allowed to do
Right?
what? Not to say they don't recall? Yes, they
Mhm.
are allowed to say they don't recall. Dietz and I were talking about this before the live. So what he did was the proper way to attempt to impeach her on this. Okay.
Yes.
So he shows her the call record. She looks at it. He asks her, hey, does it refresh your memory? And apparently there's no fucking refreshing of the memory ever. Right.
Nope.
And that's about it. The only thing that he could do beyond that would be to, if she had testified at the grand jury and was asked about these calls,
Yeah.
and she recalled it then, and she gave testimony about it, then yes, he could show, hey, but during the grand jury proceedings, you did say that, you said X, Y, and Z or whatever. That can be used to impeach her. But yes, she's allowed to say from now until the end of time that she doesn't recall. And that is a lawyer's advice. Go ahead. What were you going to say, Ben?
That's what I was saying. Like, you have to know, like, that specific term of her saying I don't recall was a big red flag for me. Not I don't know or I'm not sure. Like, those are what we would say.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not us because we watch trials, but commonly that's what we would say. But a lawyer being coached or being told or or if you don't know something, you get in the weeds on something, just say I don't recall. It was very lawyer speak to me.
Yes. The most frequent phrase used when somebody doesn't remember something is, I don't remember that, or I don't remember. But I don't recall is lawyer speak. And it is something that lawyers will advise their clients. It is better to say that you don't remember than to offer an answer that they can, again, when you answer something, then if you're not telling the truth, right, then they will say, well, here's something else. That's how they try to impeach a witness.
That's why it would have been
correct.
It would have been better for Katie McLaughlin to go with I don't recall than to flat out say I ain't friends with her and then they come up with a bunch of proof and look at where she is.
That was some of the best testimony ever. It reminded me so much of the things that we see here on YouTube in the dramas. When somebody says, I didn't say X, Y, and Z, I don't know X, Y, and Z. And then
you're like, oh, wait, I got the receipts.
Correct.
Well,
let's check my files. Oh, looky here's this screenshot.
You're right. It's exactly like here on the YouTube streets, because then after that was done, what happened? The internet went and interneted and found even more proof.
Correct.
It's a perfect example of what we see on YouTube.
Exactly. So that's why an attorney will tell you rather than getting boxed in, on and,
Get ahead of it.
commit to a yes or a no definitive answer, the best thing to say if you're not sure, even if you don't understand the question, is to say you don't understand the question or say you don't recall. And that's just true, because it's not a lot. I mean, it's harder to prove that unless you've answered that question before. But here we go.
You confined your discussions about this case just to your specific family members?
Not necessarily.
No, I mean, clearly, you would have talked to Courtney Proctor about it, correct?
Objection.
So, folks, why don't we end?
Yeah.
Not Aunt Bev just shutting us down right in the middle of cross.
Right. Aunt Bev Judge Bev has had enough. She does not like that, the way that this is going. And so she's decided, let's just shut this down.
Yeah, we're done. We're done. Here. Nothing to see here.
All right. Fuck this shit. I'm out.
Go to your cars. We're done.
Yeah, exactly correct. This is why I'd be losing my patience with Judge Bev, because there would have been a more appropriate time for her to say that. And I will say this, the timing of it, and she does this frequently, and when somebody does something one or two times, it's a coincidence.
Well,
when
and
somebody
oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. When somebody does something repeatedly, it is then a pattern of behavior. And I have noticed a couple of interesting things. One, she does this quite frequently when it's cross-examination. That's really the only time she does it. And number two, there must be a fire station somewhere around that courthouse. We've heard the sirens before. But I will say this. What I notice, and this is just really probably some weird-ass odd coincidence, is that some of the witnesses, when they're asked specifically about January 28th and 29th, the Albert family, and they start to answer the question, the sirens go off. Yeah. And I've always wondered if that is some like weird, just coincidence, or like the universe saying, pay attention. They said no lie.
Which is what is so ironic about this one is because she does. So I noticed it at lunch, and then I heard for lunch they order, like they cater in for the jury. So I can understand her being prompt at lunch, like 1 o'clock. She's shutting it down because I get that she wants to be mindful of everybody's time. I can respect that. But she comes back tomorrow for this cross, or the next day for this cross, and she says, "I'm sorry, whatever, Mr. Yannetti, if I would have known you only had a few more questions, I wouldn't have shut it down." It's like, really? Because I've never heard you ask that question before. Like, hey, are you almost done with this witness? Like,
ever.
Okay.
Ever.
Never heard it.
And usually what happens is, there is a schedule. They do talk about scheduling. The court does. The judge talks about it with the attorneys. And usually they have the same, morning break. It's the same time, lunch and afternoon break. And it's usually when they are coming, after they come back from the afternoon break, when there's a natural flow, like at the fucking sidebar that had just taken place. That might have been a good time to discuss scheduling. And then when she sat back down, she could have said, we've taken up the issue of scheduling in addition to the original sidebar. And this is what we have decided. We're going to go for another 10 or 15 minutes or whatever the fuck it is. And then we're going to call it a night. Nope, not Judge Bev. She just interrupts in the middle of a damn question and answer session. We're done for the day, ladies and gentlemen. I've had enough. My blood sugar is low. I'm tired of looking at you, and I'm ready to be done for the day. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Please come again.
Yes. Don't read anything. Don't do your own research, and don't discuss this case. All right. Bye-bye.
So when there's one bailiff that calls in the jury, I miss the bring the jury, bring the jury or send for the whatever he said down in Burdock, but he calls the jury, and then they do this whole speech, and it's a very old-timey speech that they do about the Commonwealth and all the these and thous and whatnot. And then at the end, he goes, jury out. Like that's how he says it, jury out. It's just it's a hilarious contrast. I find it
Patricia
comical.
says, these are witnesses, not suspects. This is a despicable accusation and intrusion into these innocent folks' lives that could have been avoided had Karen taken responsibility for what she did. Well, all right, Patricia.
You're entitled to feel that way, but in our country, she's still innocent. I mean, that's just how it is. She's innocent until she's proven guilty in this trial. So we don't know if she had something to plead guilty to or to take responsibility for. We just aren't aware of that yet. It might come out that you're absolutely 110% correct, but it might come
Absolutely.
out that she didn't have something to plead guilty for.
And for me personally, this is how I feel. Karen is innocent until proven guilty, but when a line of questioning, cross-examination specifically, starts to go in a certain direction, and we happen to be talking about the trial, then we're going to have to talk about the direction that the questioning is going. And specifically, Allie and I are trying to review this trial in the same way that a jury or a juror would watch this trial. And so for me, I'm speaking on the testimony that I hear, and I'm saying if I were on the jury, how it looks to me, because I don't have any of the backstory, and this is different for me. Like, it's been a while since I've done a trial like this.
But there might be people that feel that same way as Patricia on the jury, but they're also instructed not to feel that way. Like as jury members, that's how they're not supposed to approach it. You know,
Right.
they have to approach it unbiasedly and be open to hearing all of the evidence before coming to a decision and a conclusion. But I do agree with her on a certain extent. Like if they are, there is obviously the possibility that they're not involved in things, but there are also some shady things that have been uncovered through the investigation or through the lack of investigation, but there are things that are worth asking questions on. 110%.
Right. And I will say that if I'm sitting on a jury, I would never be able to discuss this with you guys, obviously, because jurors can't discuss when they're actually on in a trial. But it is, I don't know what any of these people did, Karen included. But I will say, when I'm sitting and listening to somebody on the stand who will not claim their friend,
being invasive,
and they're saying that they weren't close, and yet there's this call log that proves, and it could all be a coincidence, but it starts to look, it could all be a coincidence that these calls took place around that time, right? It could, but what starts to make it look like something other than just a coincidence is the testimony that they're not friends.
The evasiveness and the attitude, like it could be completely innocent. And that's what I was curious as to on a few things in this trial. Like, okay, there is absolutely plausible explanations for a lot of the things that do look suspicious. And so I thought on some of these things, we would hear a plausible explanation for them. And instead, we haven't gotten that. We've actually gotten the complete opposite of that with I don't recall, I don't know, or just flat out lying. And that's crazy because, like you said, it could be something plausible. Like, well, yeah, I was talking to her for this amount of time. I was setting up a play date or a babysitting date or something like that.
Right. Or Chris came home and he was a total asshole, and I was venting to my friend.
I needed to vent to my girlfriend. Yep.
Which is, all of these are plausible and reasonable explanations. It's the denying that they were friends to begin with, and then you see the call logs and you're thinking, well, why are you trying to distance yourself from her? What's that about? And I'm not sure who is in charge of witness prep, but they're not doing a very good job because these are the state's witness, and the state, it would have been a much better approach when you know that you have somebody who's going to take the stand who's controversial, and that the defense, you kind of already know
Which way they're going to go.
Exactly. For example, Melanie Pulowski, all throughout the trial of the people that knew Chad and Lori, those witnesses, Pryor kept asking about the 7 gatherers repeatedly, and none of us could figure out why he was asking about that. Well, when Melanie Pulowski got up to the stand, one of the early questions that the state asked her was about the 7 gatherers, which is an email. It was more than just an email account, but just for this purposes. But they decided to get ahead of it. So it's better in a situation like this that you get ahead of it. It would have been better for Lolly to establish that they were friends.
Yep.
And that they communicated frequently.
About childcare or this or that.
Correct.
Yeah, it would have been a lot better to do that.
Because if the implication is that and it's not in this, it's going to come out on day 10, day 9, that Julie was using her friendship with Courtney as an intermediary between she and Proctor.
Yeah.
So if she would have just said, we are close, we are friends, then there would have been nothing that the defense could have done with the 67 phone calls, because they talk all the time, they're friends. Doesn't matter what they talked about. The 1st of February, the 2nd of February is really just yes, Karen Reed is being indicted. Yes, the officer, John O'Keefe, was found dead on the family's lawn. But there's nothing special about these calls when compared to any other day, because they're friends. Right. That's where that's where Lolly should have taken the bull by the horns and got ahead of this.
I agree completely. And it would have done, he's definitely not doing his witnesses, because you have to remember, these are his witnesses.
Right.
He's the one who's supposed to protect them. And so he should have definitely gotten ahead of, like I said earlier, he's done that to a certain extent by going the direction he's going. But then in other aspects, like you said there, not touching on it in direct, he's doing them a disservice. Absolutely. And let me be frank, I don't know if Karen is guilty or innocent. I know there are a lot of people who have very strong opinions that she's 100% innocent. This is horrible for her. I don't know that. Like, I haven't seen all the evidence. I haven't heard all the things. And I don't think it's fair to say at this point who or if she is guilty or innocent. But I do know for a fact that, like, if she is innocent, then what has been done to her is horrible. And if she is guilty, I agree. Like, what has been done to the Alberts and the other witnesses is horrible too.
Absolutely.
And then the main thing is the fact that John lost his life, and that is tragic.
Yes.
Absolutely tragic.
Yes.
So none of this is good. None of it's good at all.
No, but Lolly's trial strategy, I can't listen. We could all, and this is what I'm saying today on day 8. Well, today is obviously not day 8 of testimony. It's really day 11, but we're talking about day 8. How I feel about watching today, day 8's testimony, may not be the same way I feel watching day 15 or day 20.
Exactly.
But I think that it's problematic because in the very beginning, when the first responders were put on the stand, Lolly, in my opinion, did not get ahead of what the defense, what their cross-examination might be.
Yeah.
And so when they testified, you don't want to have the people who were there in the first moments bungling the collection of evidence and documentation of what was occurring.
Oh my gosh, I
Because
can't with the solo cups and the paper
yes,
bag. Are you
because
kidding
that's
me?
where it starts. The investigation into what happened started the minute that first responders arrived, and then the police were, the ambulance and police, right? They're taking notes, they're making observations, they're speaking to the people on the scene, and then the firefighter paramedics are performing life-saving measures, trying to get him stable to get him transferred to the ER. But if everything starts with the investigation, and now we're at the trial portion, if the investigation was not good from the beginning, then it makes you wonder how they got here to be charging this person with these crimes on this date. That's the burden of proof is on the state. It is not on the defense. And
A lot of people forget that. They
yes,
absolutely do forget that. They forget that the defense doesn't have to prove a case. They don't have to prove even like what Yannetti said in motions in limine, like it's not they don't even have to prove who it is when they choose the third party culprit defense. Like, but of course, the courts want them to at least go a certain direction with it, but like you said, the burden of proof is not on them. They
right.
have a lot more leeway in it.
Right. And if I'm going to talk about this case from a juror's perspective, then when I am watching the state present their evidence, and I'm looking at it and where we are in the course of the trial right now, we haven't even established that John O'Keefe, bless rest his soul, is dead at this point.
No, they haven't. They haven't established when Karen, because their theory is Karen killed him by backing up to him. We know that from the opening statements, but they haven't established anything else beyond that. No timeline, nothing.
It's problematic. All right, hold on. What's okay, Caroline says, good point at Jen Lou. Is she lying because Mel P lied about who were the 7 gatherers according to Zalima Pastenis? Is who lying? Julie? This is the problem. Is she lying about being friends with
Courtney Proctor?
Courtney? Clearly, they were friends, and there's nothing wrong.
That's the problem for me. There's nothing wrong with them being friends. It's the evasiveness in court on testimony that's the problem.
Well, Ro, yes, he is obviously he is deceased, but it's the way that the trial is being presented, the order in which it's being presented. So if they started out with the first responders, you would think the next place they would go would be the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we would get to the part where he's pronounced dead, and then the observations and everything from the medical professionals, and then likely the autopsy. Okay.
It's the whole basis of the trial. And often they bring in the coroner or the medical examiner early on to do that, to do just that.
Correct.
We're not doing it here.
That's what, yeah, exactly. The way that this is being presented. Oh, Ro, no, you don't feel stupid. You asked a very legitimate question. It's the way the state has chosen to present the witnesses. Mm-hmm. Usually they start with, which they did in this case, they start with the victim's family to establish who the victim is. Okay. Then they move to the discovery of the victim. So in this case, they use the first responders. Then they go to usually, if they're DOA, if this is a case of a body being found, DOA and there were no life-saving measures. You know how that goes. They call the coroner, then the body is taken to the medical examiner, then the autopsy is performed. And usually that's how it goes. And then they go on in building their case against
and how they
the defendant.
how they
Correct.
found the defendant. Exactly. So when we say
Correct.
things like we don't know a timeline, or we don't even know he's deceased yet, we're not saying that we don't actually know these things. We know that there's a time, well, I do, because I've, dug into it beforehand. But if Jen Lou's looking at it as solely from a juror's perspective, they have not laid out a crystal clear timeline. And that is making it very hard for a juror to, like I had said earlier in the live, one of the testimonies was that Karen and John show up at 12:15. So Bendy's got it in her mind right now that 12:15 is when they've arrived. I was like, spoiler alert, you're going to hear a little different later on. So this timeline has not been laid out for the jury, and included in that is the fact that the jury has not even been told he's deceased yet. So
Correct.
we are on day 11 and the jury has not even been told that he's deceased. That's
Correct.
a problem.
That's a problem. That's a problem. And then you have these witnesses that they've brought in who are now essentially testifying to what occurred the night prior into the early morning hours of January 29th, from the 28th to the 29th, right? And they're going over they all went out together. They were all at the waterfall together, although they all arrived at different times and in different combinations, right? And who sat where, blah, blah, blah. That's important testimony too, but it means nothing what's the point of them saying this? If you don't you see what I'm saying? They haven't established why the 28th and 29th are important, or why the arguing would be important, or the who called whom and who showed up when and where and who they were with. And I mean, we haven't gotten there today, but when we go over it next, we're going to hear under cross that at 8:30, which is around 2 hours after 2.5 hours after the 911 call was made, and they were on scene for a minute before they put him in the back of the ambulance and took him to the hospital. And then we hear about all the snow blowing with the leaf blower and all the things that they were doing in the interim while John is being taken by ambulance to the hospital. But when Miss Ma'am Julie arrives, she can't tell that anything's happened. In fact, the only reason she knew that anything had happened is because Brian Albert Sr. was waiting at the door close to the garage. So when she went to go put the donuts in the Brian Jr.'s car, he ushered her into the house. That's how much of a non-scene this was. If he hadn't been standing at that door, you know what likely would have happened? If she's telling the gospel truth, she would have put those donuts in that car, in Brian Jr.'s car, and went on about her day, none the wiser. None the wiser. And that blows my mind that she was not aware that something had happened there. Whether it was a crime or an accident or not, at this point in the testimony, it doesn't really matter. It's the fact that you can't tell anything happened.
Right. Well, okay, so Lacey asked, are they trying to dance around the injuries? I haven't checked the prosecution's witness list. Not sure when they are going to bring someone in to explain the very odd injuries from a car. They've touched on them briefly throughout the firefighter paramedic conversation, which is kind of where Bendy and I were saying, like, typically, the first responders have told us a little bit about these injuries. So you would think, or at least I would, and from those that have watched trials, the next step is going to follow John's timeline and where he went when he left that scene. And that would hear testimony from the hospital, testimony from the coroner, testimony from the medical examiner. And then we're going to fully understand that before we go back in time, quite like the detectives did. And then the case, after he was deceased, then it became the state police's case. and then that how they built their case. But we are seeing it all out of whack. We're going here, there, everywhere, and it's throwing everybody off. Everybody, jurors, attorneys, commentary people, it's just throwing everyone off because it's all over the board.
The only thing that I can think of that might be the reason for this trial strategy is to get these specific witnesses out of the way. Because let's be honest, if you're the state, you don't really want the jury to remember these witnesses. So perhaps
That's true. That's true.
it's
But then
let's put them on, let's get it over with. And the thing we really want the jury to stick with the jury for it to be fresh in their brains is the injuries and why they were caused by a vehicle and not by, something else that the defense throws in there. Do you see what I'm saying? So maybe,
yeah. I kind of agree with Missy and I kind of disagree with her. She says that technically she's charged with murder, but they have never established it. I don't think because of where they've gone in it, they can't establish that yet at this point because they have to get, it's like if you look at things in step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, they have went from step 1 to step 4, then they jumped up to 8, then they're back down at 2. They're just completely out of order. And they should be at this point, in my opinion, on step 4, which would be establishing death, all of those things, and then why they started investigating Karen, and then that would lead into why they charged her with murder. But
correct.
they've just bounced here, there, and everywhere.
Correct. And Lacey H says, how long was John in the freezing snow? He was still alive when discovered. Is it really possible for someone to be laying unconscious for hours in the freezing snow without heavy covering? This is the part that I find quite confusing because one of the firefighters checked for a pulse and there was no pulse. However, when they arrived on the scene, Karen Reed was performing life-saving measures. The only reason you would ever perform life-saving measures is if the person,
she would perform them just because it's your loved one. You're
correct.
going to start performing them, and if let's think this through a little bit.
Okay.
If he's out there in the cold from, let's just say 12:30, because we don't have the exact time established yet in court, but say he's out there in the cold from 12:30 to 6:03. We're talking at all 5.5 hours in the cold, and they have testified, and everybody else has as well, that there was fresh blood, right? That he was actively bleeding. So you don't actively bleed if there's not something moving that blood. I hate to be grotesque on your channel, but
you have to say if there is no heartbeat, there's no way for blood to move, and therefore there would be no way for blood to escape.
But it could be, there could be other reasons that it's coming out of his nose or whatnot. But I read, and my daughter's only experience is when she did her rotation through the ER. But I read her some of this stuff, some of the transcript, and asked her a bunch of questions. And one of the things that I asked her about was the pupil dilation that one of the EMTs discussed, where they checked his pupils and said what they were dilated to. And she's like, ooh. And she knows nothing about this case. She's like, that would be indicative of someone who has no brain activity. And she told me like a bunch of other things. She's like, I wouldn't think that person, like they would have been interested in resuscitating someone like that based on some of the things I had read her. And I said, well, here it says further down from this firefighter that he was a viable resuscitate. I'm like, why would you have all of these things? And then they still determine that he's a viable resuscitate, because that's the verbiage they used. She goes, I don't know, because I wasn't there, but something that they saw made them believe that he was worth attempting to resuscitate, because they would not just attempt it on anyone. Like there was some reason that they felt that they, could spend the time and energy. And I don't mean to put it that way because it sounds crass, but there was some reason, they saw some reason to attempt resuscitation.
Correct. It's like, I'll give you a prime example. Boone. We all heard that dadgum 911 call. Okay. Then she's on there pretending to give CPR. At least she's counting anyway. Not really, but she is. And then when the paramedics arrive, they tell Sarah Boone, he has been gone too long. And they don't even try to do any life-saving measures on George. So what do? They call the freaking coroner and the coroner and the police, and they come out and then they take over the scene. So something that they saw, that was kind of what my point was, Dietz, is that something that they saw, those firefighters, one of them or both of them saw, made them think that John could be resuscitated.
Yeah, or
That
else
there
they
was
wouldn't have stated there was a viability option. And there was, I was scrolling up and reading through the comments, and one made me think of something, and then I completely lost it. Oh, one said about the three gentlemen in Kansas City that froze throughout the night. There was one firefighter that gave a testimony, and I can't remember who it is, but I clipped it. And his testimony was that John had only been out there a few hours. Like something that he had seen meant that the injuries were fresh and would have only been, this is not his exact verbiage, but would have only been viable in that environment for a few hours, meaning that they were recent injuries. So I don't know if a few to me means two, maybe three
right.
tops, but to someone else it might mean 5.5. Who knows? I wish they would have explored that further, but maybe they're waiting for, the actual doctors and whatnot.
Correct. And I will say this, one thing that they did not do with the first responders is proffer them as expert witnesses.
They didn't. That's very true. That's
So
a great reminder.
They were limited on the things that they could ask the first responders, because in a trial, only expert witnesses are allowed to give an opinion, not anybody else. So had they proffered those first responders as experts, and they had, and then the defense accepted it, and then the court said, okay, their testimony is considered expert witness testimony, they could have asked more probing questions like, what made you decide to give life-saving measures? Because then they could give an opinion. You see what I'm saying?
True.
Not what made you, but
yeah.
Under
More
what circumstances what is the criteria for a person to be a viable resuscitation? And then they could have discussed that.
Yeah, I would really, really like to. Sorry, you guys just saw my fan for a second. But I would really like to know what made them think that he was a viable resuscitation. Because I feel like there's something interesting, not interesting, but something there to that. I'm just
Right.
as to
Me
what
too.
it is.
Because all of it makes it seem as if it occurred, those injuries on John, that he was not out there for 6 hours.
Yeah.
That it
And
was
that's why I
much
go
more
back to
recently.
one testimony. And then it just makes me think other things that I know that you don't know yet, so I won't say them. But I'm very curious. It's all coming together, but it's coming together so slowly. And my fear is that the jury is going to their minds are going to wander. They're going to get lost, and they might forget things. Granted, they're going to have all the exhibits and everything that they can look through and their notes. But I mean, if we're looking at 8 weeks, that's a lot to retain and to keep in there.
Yeah.
And if I just care about the justice for John O'Keefe. And if she is guilty and it's lost because of how Lolly is lollygagging through this, that's heartbreaking. That's truly heartbreaking.
It is. And Kathy, to answer your question, I'd have to look, because different states have different criteria that would qualify somebody to be an expert witness.
Yes.
One is testifying in other trials as an expert witness. That's pretty much across the board. But I will say this. So like in the West Memphis 3 case, when Dale is it Dale Griffiths? Is that who was their expert witness on the occult? When they were going through the his CV in the beginning, to be in a in-camera hearing prior to letting him be an expert testimony, Dale Griffiths had no formal education. His PhD was from a mail-in college. He not actually tested. I don't think he testified as a witness before, but basically Judge Burnett allowed him to be an expert witness because he had a working knowledge of the occult. It wasn't.
Are you serious?
Yes. I think Arkansas. I can't remember it verbatim, but Arkansas's requirements is if you have personal experience on the job or education, something close to that. So it depends on the state.
That's all it takes.
Yeah. Because he said, because I remember it's in the documentary in the first one when they're arguing about it. And Judge Burnett says, well, I'm not sure you have to have an education to be qualified as a witness in the state of Arkansas.
I love your accent. That's why the Commonwealth changed how it happened to Karen backing up 60 feet in the snow at 24 miles per hour because you need a strong force. It does not make sense. And so that was one of their claims. So they kind of bounced around what I call their theories of the case throughout the pretrial things too. At first it was a 3-point turn, then it was something else, and then they finally settled on this straight backing up at 24 miles per hour. And we did hear Wally in opening state that we're going to hear from an expert, and he believes that they are going to opine that she backed up at 60 miles per hour.
High rate of speed.
Or 60 feet at 24 miles per hour. And I'm like, okay, so he believes his expert is going to opine this. Interesting. That's just what he believes. It just the way he words things. Sometimes.
Yes.
Crazy.
It's a fucking mess. It's an absolute mess. And by the time it's all said and done, and remember, I'm sitting here commenting on it as a juror, but I'm also somebody who watches a lot of trials too. And I don't know how many trials the jurors watch, if any, So this is a mess. I'm confused.
True.
I'm confused.
Yeah, because good night, Allie. I need to probably hop off here too.
Me
and
too.
Get myself to bed. I got a Nana tomorrow, so.
Oh, yes. Okay, so we will definitely, I'll email you or something. So I definitely want to continue to go over the rest of this testimony with the Alberts because we're at just the tip. This is just the tip, y'all.
That's what she said.
I know. Just the tip.
All right, thanks for having me.
You're welcome,
I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for being here, Deets. I appreciate it. Good night.
Have a good one.
You too, babe. Bye. All right, you guys. I think that this is where I'm going to leave it tonight. It has been a fantastic live talking about all of this with you guys. Thank you to Allie. Thank you to Deets for coming up and chit-chatting with me. And I will see you guys later. Bye.